6:02 for our regular board meeting of March 12th. We discussed 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3 in closed session. We did move to approve the public employee release and with a unanimous vote, and then our other action will come later. So let me read our statement. Individuals may address the board on agenda items on both closed session and regular session agenda items during public participation and/or at the time they are under consideration by completing the form provided on the table at the entrance and submitting the form to Anna. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per individual. Speakers will be chosen in random order. Each person may only speak once per agenda topic and is required to address the board from the podium, just to ensure that the public and we can hear. And public comment cannot be acted upon or discussed by the board unless placed on the agenda at a subsequent meeting in accordance with the Brown Act. The board may request staff to respond orally at the meeting or in writing at a future time, and a total of 20 minutes per public comment topic is allowed. And please remember that we are publicized on YouTube, and that I would just ask to silence your phones and adjust, board members, please, and staff, adjust your mic to make sure that we're good. And they'll let us know if we have any unadjusted mics. So with that being said, we'll move on to 3.3, which is consideration and possible action regarding expulsion of a pupil. So we had a discussion, and now we will take action.
So I move that we approve item 3.3, consideration of the expulsion of pupil ed code, 48918, case 20-02.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, now I believe this is a roll.
Yeah. Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
Trustee Paoli?
Yes.
Trustee Makala?
Yes.
And President Babcock?
Yes. Okay. Do we have any public participation on non-agenda items?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We have Grady Garcia, correct? Right, Little League.
So Anna is going to be our timer this evening. So we have 20, if there's no other Little League topic. It works. So no other people here to speak on the Little League behalf? Okay. So then we don't have to worry about the large timer. Anna's going to keep track of our other time as well.
Okay.
So please state your name so that we.
Yes, my name's Grady Gautier. I'm here representing Fort Bragg Little League. I'm wanting to bring up the field use fees that are being charged to our league. We had a discussion with Wendy as well as Becky and I believe Barry as well back in September 2018. Because of the new field use fees, we were told that under the new charges, we would be charged $2,400. They said they were going to ask the board to consider amending the fee schedule as applied to us. And then they said when we use this method, the fees for the entire season would be around $1,100. We then received a bill for $2,920. So we're hoping to get this as an agenda item. Just so you know, enrollment numbers, we had 224 enrollees last year in 2019. 85% of them, 190, are in Fort Bragg School District. This year, 210 enrollments. Again, 85%, 179 are Fort Bragg School District students. We do put in a lot of money and time into the fields that we use. Piver, the whole facility, as well as Whitman. Most of the baseball fields majors were put in and funded by Little League. So we feel the fee schedule as applied to our league should be discussed. I think we are partners in the maintenance of these fields. I think Barry can also attest to that. We spent over $8,000 this year alone on field maintenance. We spend depending on the year, between anywhere from $500 to $8,000 a year maintaining the league fields that we use, and then we're being charged to use them. So again, we're trying to figure out if we can come to some kind of agreement or memorandum of understanding about how much time we put in, and if we can obviously have those fees reduced. Just so you know, prior to the fee schedule being increased, we paid $300 a year. So this is almost, a tenfold increase for our league. We're completely nonprofit. We're all volunteer staff. We've spent also man hours this year. At Piver, we've spent 115 man hours. At the bus barn, we've spent 37 man hours. Junior varsity uses our home run fence. We loan that to them. We maintain it. We do not charge them for it. We also have been working with Fort Bragg High School and paying them to run some training sessions so they get money. So again, we feel like we're partners with the school district for baseball program. We're a feeder program for the high school. The high school wouldn't have the type of players it does if it wasn't for Fort Bragg Little League. We really think the money and time we spend on the fields should result in some kind of discount for the fees we paid. We just want an agenda item so we can discuss it, present more evidence at that time, and that's really what we're asking for.
Good job.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. And would you like to have an appointment with him, or we'll just put it on the agenda setting for next month?
Grady, have you met with Barry? I know we spoke on the phone. Have you met with Barry?
Not recently. I know John just saw him the other day, discussed, but on and off, we have had a couple meetings when we've been discussing field maintenance and ongoing projects, not recently.
Okay. I would love to have you come in, and if you have some time, I know everyone's incredibly busy, but let's find a time where you can sit down with Barry, and if I'm able to pop in, I absolutely will. But let's start there.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And do we have another one?
No.
Okay.
I thought we
All
did.
right.
No, it's on an agenda, right?
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for coming tonight. All right, so with 3.5 is the approval of the agenda. Is there anything that needs to be moved or tabled?
No.
Okay. Can I have an approval of the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda.
And
I'll second.
all those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Okay. All right, patriotic exercise, please.
Would
Trustee
you
Benson.
all please join me in saluting the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so acknowledgements, I believe Becky will.
Acknowledgements. We have a $300 anonymous donation, which was made to Noyo High School for their splash funds. $5,000 from the James G. Cummings Foundation to Alternative Education Campus for classroom supplies. It was a huge one, thank you. 12 Dr. Seuss books were donated by the Fort Bragg Rotary to Redwood Elementary Library. Thank you, Fort Bragg Rotary. Fort Bragg Rotary Club also donated dictionaries to all Dana grade third graders. Thank you again for the Rotarians out in the virtual audience and those present here. Masonic Lodge 179 contributed to the installation cost of the washer and dryer at the John Diedrich Center. So if folks want to know what that is, we approved, Children's Fund donated the washer and dryer, but in order to get it installed at John Diedrich, we had to make some modifications to get the electric, and that was going to cost us almost $4,000. And the Masons came in and said, we'll take care of that. So Fort Bragg Electric will bill them directly so that it's not prevailing wage. So thank you to
Very
those
nice.
generous donations.
So, I'm sorry, but did the migrant ed not,
I don't see
okay,
nobody from Migrant Ed.
sorry, they were supposed to. Okay, all right. And Nate, is the volume okay, or Becky seems awfully quiet this evening?
I can move up.
We're good?
I can
Okay.
move up. I can talk more. That's what everybody wants.
All right, so communication, did any board members receive
We received the invitation to the League of Women Voters,
Which has been
but has
canceled.
been canceled.
And then I think we had a nice note from a parent saying the fields look great.
Yes, I have that down.
Yes, that was, am I allowed to say the name?
Oh.
Okay,
It's a-
Melissa
yeah,
Ivankay
parent.
sent an email to thank us because she said the fields looked great. So,
And then Becky forwarded that to thank the staff, so thank you.
I think on Migrant Ed.
Okay,
can that happen under communication?
sure.
Marcus, do you want to come up to the mic for Migrant Ed?
Sure. I have your slideshow. This student is coming, she's gonna do a presentation.
Okay,
Oh, where are we going? You
to that mic.
You're gonna take
At the
this.
podium.
This is the little clicker, so when you're ready, it is on. You just need to press that one to get. Oh, would I ask the student to sit there with me? Yes. I'm gonna, all right, I'll get it loaded up.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going,
Do you want me to move on with communication?
sure.
Anybody else have other communication before I move on?
The only thing was that Little League contacted me, but they came this evening as well.
Okay, do you want to say that again?
Little League contacted me as well.
Okay, great, we'll do, so we have a communication from Migrant Ed. At the podium, at the podium.
Yeah, there you go.
So we're keeping track of. the
So we're
minutes.
on time for this one, so 3 minutes per person, because it's non-agenda items. 20 minutes per topic, 3 minutes per person.
Oh, hello, I'm Marie Cruz, I'm the recruiter for the migrant education program. And
Can you
we have a student who attended to the Washington
Thank you.
DC field trip that we offer. And she's gonna do a presentation about what she learned in that field trip. Introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Kimberly Cervantes. I am a student of Fort Bragg Middle School. I'm in 8th grade, and this is my Washington, D.C. trip presentation. Hi, my name is Kimberly Cervantes Lopez. I am an 8th grade student at Fort Bragg Middle School. I had the opportunity to participate on the Washington, D.C. trip during the summer of 2019. This trip is being offered to migrant education students, which I am a part of. I learned about important historical monuments such as the Abraham Lincoln Memorial, the White House, the Holocaust Museum, Lincoln's Library, the Veterans Wall, and Arlington's National Cemetery. The 3 branches of the government: executive, judicial, and legislative. My favorite place in Washington, D.C. Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial. I have a dream. He fought for civil rights. How Martin Luther King Jr. took part of the United States history. Brought publicity to major civil rights efforts, promoted nonviolence during protests, contributed in founders of the African American Civil Rights Monument. Fast facts about Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr. is the only non-president with a national holiday in his honor. He was awarded the Congressional Gold Medal and the Presidential Medal of Freedom. King was the youngest person to be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964. There are over 730 streets in the United States named after Martin Luther King Jr. Do I recommend this trip? Yes, I recommend this field trip, because we learned important things of the government. We met people from around the state. It was exciting to see monuments and statues. I was lucky to have an opportunity to go. Thank you.
And thank you. I think that's her presentation about what she learned in this field trip that we offered to our migrant students.
Thank you for working with our students, Mayor Cruz, and giving them the opportunity.
Of course.
And how would, if they were, students were interested, who, would they find you on campus, or how would they?
Yes, we have two requirements for the program, and one is the type of work. It's agriculture, fishing, and livestock. And also if they have economic necessity moves. Those are the two requirements that we are requiring. And yeah, I'm the recruiter, and I get to enroll the families in this program.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay. Did you have any other?
So under, under communication, we wanted to take a moment today to kind of update families on what's going on with COVID-19. The governor provided some recommendations today. It's been a little hectic. I was on the phone with all the county superintendents today, trying to figure out how we move forward with some of the issues with COVID-19. So first off, let me reiterate that our county remains to have 0 confirmed cases of COVID-19, the coronavirus, in our county. Folks will say, well, Becky, it's a matter of time, and they're probably right. So first off, I want to just remind folks that we are taking the direction of public health. We're taking the direction of the County Office of Education. Becky Walker doesn't sit in her office by herself and say, well, now, see what we can do about this. We work in collaboration with many county officials so that any decisions that are made are 100% backed behind the County Department of Public Health, our County Superintendent of Schools. So right now I'm working on a joint communique with the county superintendent so we can get something out to families. The reason why it's being delayed is because we have lots of things happening over the next couple of days. On Tuesday, CIF, the California Interscholastic Federation, is meeting to determine if we are going to cancel spring sports for the rest of the year. What's difficult is that our state is looking at trying to contain this. And I don't know if you see on the internet, you see the bell curve of a pandemic and then what our hospitals can maintain. So the idea behind it is to just try and contain this as much as possible. 30 days is the golden window, because in truth, if we just shut everything down for 30 days, anybody who's infected, right, it's a 2-week gestation period, anyone who's infected will blossom and then hopefully have the time to rest and recover. And then anyone who's not infected, if only, if only. So that's why you're seeing a lot of these decisions talk about over the next 30 days. So where we are in this county right now is, again, I want to reiterate, we have 0 confirmed cases. What we are doing in Fort Bragg Unified is trying to work with our county to have a consistent message, and that message is, are we having events that are going to hold over 250 people in a room? Now, this is the largest group we have had in a board meeting. I am not nervous about that. I think it's great. Come on back. We're in room 306 if anybody out there would like to join us. So that is why a couple of things have been canceled. So for instance, we have a career fair that's on March 20th. We just canceled that today because we were bringing in Mendocino Unified, Laytonville Unified, all of our alt-ed. We had planned to have about 850 students on the Fort Bragg High School campus. So that's over 250. So we're going to say we're going to hold off on that. Now, the reality is Fort Bragg High School and all of our campuses have more than 250 people any one day. We have all been together since August. None of us are worried about our kiddos. We've all been getting sick together because sharing is caring. I walked into a classroom last month and it was like they had 16 kids because the 8 other kids had individually puked on each other throughout the day. So this is part of immunity aerobics. This is part of being in a public school. So we're not worried about that. We have confirmed cases of influenza A, influenza B. Someone told me today, hey, Mrs. Walker, my family was just diagnosed with the avian flu. So We have lots of influenza going around. What we are trying to do right now is be as cautious as possible without instilling anxiety in our kiddos and unneeded fear. If you are a mom and dad out there and your family is medically fragile and you're worried about the kids bringing something home, contact your principal. We'll figure out options for you. We're going to work with you. We have some people who say, hey, you know, kiddos are living with grandma and grandpa. Grandma and grandpa are a little bit older. We're worried about things coming in and out. Call us. We will make accommodations for what will work best for the family. Is that independent study? Just tell us. We're not going to do this in a vacuum. So we're going to work really hard to work with families. I will be very honest with everybody. Unless public health shuts us down, I have no intention of closing school. School is the safest place for our kiddos. We feed them, we work with them, we share our germs, we know that. The more research you do on the coronavirus and COVID-19 is that you're not seeing many kiddos getting infected. You're seeing the medically fragile and the elderly community. And we're gonna do everything we can to keep our folks safe. We made the decision today to, for instance, keep our middle school dance going. The middle school staff got together. I called Laura Vieira and I said, Laura, you need to get the staff together and I'm gonna support whatever you wanna do. And Laura got the staff together and here are the parameters. The staff has been with the middle school kids for the last 8 months. They continue to be with all their kids. The staff came together and said, okay, we're not gonna have other students from other schools come in. These are our kids. Parents aren't even welcome into the dance. We have a few parents who help with the snack shack. We're not gonna do any slow songs. So the idea behind it was we have 0 confirmed cases. Does that make sense? So I have no problem with the middle school dance going on. We have yet to have a middle school dance with more than 250 kids. So we're not worried about that. That's happening on Friday. However, the track team was scheduled to go to Santa Rosa for a huge track event. That track event was supposed to be like 2,000 people. So we're kind of holding a timeout on the track event. Does this make sense? I'm hoping folks can understand where the decision-making is happening with this. I think baseball is pretty upset right now because they were supposed to go to Calusa for an overnight tournament, and we pulled the plug on that a half hour ago. Why? Because they're going into an area with known virus cases, and the governor just said limit travel. Okay, so apologize to the baseball families. I get it, sports are hugely important. And I'll be honest with you, my own son is coming home from college. I got a phone call from him that says, Mom, they're shutting down till April 6th, and Dad says I should wait to buy a ticket. And I, of course, say, don't listen to your father. Buy a ticket. Sorry, honey. So it's happening all over the country. What I want us to do more than anything is to remain calm. I want our schools to be the calm voice of reason. We're gonna stay open. We have 12, after tomorrow, on Monday, we have 11 weeks of school left. My intention is to fully educate our kids for the next 11 weeks. Now, if the sky falls down and something happens, then we will react to the sky falling down and it happening. We will prepare for the unlimited possibilities that could happen, but also we're gonna hope for the best. We need to keep feeding and educating our kids. And I am now on a daily phone call with the county. The county superintendents are meeting every morning at 10 a.m. via Zoom, thank you technology, for us to be able to have the conversation and get daily updates. And if anything drastically changes, I will send that out. As soon as we have more information from CIF and from our county Department of Public Health, we will send a letter out to parents. I have an email halfway constructed to the staff, and that's only because I got off one phone call at 2 o'clock, finished 2 appointments at 3:30, finished another phone call at 4 o'clock, got out of my office at 4:30 to pick up food so we could eat, and then got here at 5 o'clock for closed session. So it's been a little bit of a hectic day. The whole intent behind all of this is to make sure that we do our very best to keep our kiddos safe. We keep communication as open as possible. If anyone out there is feeling anxious or nervous about this, come and talk to your principal. We will find options. School districts in big communities are kind of closing. They're in a much different situation than we are. Some parents have asked me, well, let's just go online school. We have a lot of our families who do not have internet access. And not because they don't want to and they're trying to like live free, because they simply, it's not available in their area. So we have to be very judicial in the decisions that we make. And we're gonna do everything we can to honor every family's feelings. More importantly, I wanna make sure that our kiddos are not inundated with coronavirus discussions from our staff in every single hour or at every single class period. We can go back in time and remember H1N1, swine flu, when we had the meningitis outbreaks. You know, we're humans, our earth evolves. These are things that will happen, and it's only a matter of time before the next one comes. So the good news is that there are no cases right now in our county. That's the good news. The better news is that we are in a position that we will be able to respond with dignity and grace, and we will do our very best. And I just ask that families remain calm and know that we are working on this daily. So someone had said, Becky, you're not giving enough information. We distributed a letter last week. Information has not drastically changed since that last letter. I'm gonna encourage everybody, wash your hands. Don't touch your face, and you'll probably see me touch my face like 10 times today because the spring has sprung and the pollen's out and my eyes are watering. So this is where we're at.
And a letter will go out for sure next week.
Once we have more information, a letter will go out. If we have something quick, small tidbits, we'll send it out in Aries, and we'll send an email out to families. For sure, we will get something in Spanish and English out to families. The latest will probably be next Wednesday. Like I said, CIF meets on Tuesday. The county superintendent of schools, Michelle Hutchins, has a letter that she's going to get out to families. We're gonna have that. We're publishing all the most recent information that we have from the county on our website. So if there's any anxiety out there and people are nervous, please call your school principal. Feel free to call me, and we'll do our very best to answer questions.
Thank you, Becky.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other communication? Okay. All right, so public participation on agenda items. Now, again, you can speak now. I know we have somebody, or you can wait till the item comes up, whichever you would prefer.
I would love to jump up there now.
Please do. Just make sure you introduce yourself, please.
Yes. Hi, everybody. I'm Emily. I'm representing the Noyo Food Forest. We're agenda item 11.2. Our current lease with the Fort Bragg Unified School District expires on June 30th, and we provided a letter of request and intent to exercise our option to extend this lease. I just want to say that we've really appreciated the productive relationship with the school district, and we will love to continue as a community garden and continue to fulfill our farm to school and educational programming. And we appreciate your consideration for the full 2-year lease extension. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you for your work with the program as well. Okay. Any other public participation on agenda items? Okay. Okay, so we'll move on to reports. The first one is the board report. Does anyone have anything to report on, or?
I do. I know that you do too, because Diana and I went to the family literacy night last night at Redwood, and it was so great. It was
great.
really wonderful. There were quite a few families, lots of kids, and lots of pizza. And lots of activities, and they had an array of great prizes the kids could enter to win after participating in different activities and getting a page stamped and submitting it. So it was very, very cool. So that was the highlight.
I haven't been anywhere but work, so.
That's not true.
Well,
Well,
yeah.
I think most of
Oh,
us
that's right,
attended
we
the,
It's a blur.
The county supervisor arranged a training here in this room for us, and it was similar to Masters in Governance in a condensed version. So if you were a new board member, it was really good information, but a lot of review for those of us that have graduated from MIG. But it was really nice to have something local, and we didn't have to travel, and they provided dinner.
That's very nice.
And let's see, Redwood is my new site, and I attended the coffee with the principal the end of March. And their big goal this year is to try to get everyone to sign in at the office, because it is a couple options to get in to the Redwood school. So some people bypass the office, but that's a big goal for everyone to sign in at the office, so everyone knows that you're there and you can be directed on where you're headed with a visitor badge. And she's going to have another. It's always the last Friday of the month. If anyone else wants to go and see what's happening at Redwood, along with Parents Club, is I think April 2nd at 5:30, and Redwood Site Council is next week.
So just a couple of things. I attended the Masters in Governance course 3 and 4 with Becky a few weeks ago. Very informative, all about finance and budget, school budgets, very fascinating. And the second day was about human resources and negotiations. And so it was great to kind of learn more about how to govern a school district, appreciate the opportunity to learn. Spent about a couple hours with Connie at the alt ed schools, touring around, seeing all the great things happening there. And I know earlier Becky said that $5,000 was given by the Cummings Foundation, and it's just amazing what they are able to do with that amount of money. If you haven't seen the schools, they're pretty amazing, and the staff and the kids together, working together to create that environment is pretty awesome. So I felt proud to kind of be a part of that and see it, and they're all working really, really hard over there. So.
Okay.
And also, I just wanted to ask, and you don't have to report now, I'd love to hear how Officer Lopez, how that whole thing's going at some point. Doesn't have to be right now, but because I've heard some good things around.
It's been great. It's off to a great start. Good.
Okay, our student rep is not here, so we'll skip that. So superintendent report.
So the first thing on the superintendent report is the comprehensive support and improvement. And it's a CSI, it's not criminal scene investigation. But it's called CSI, and it's Comprehensive Support and Improvement. It's part of ESSA, which is the Every Student Succeeds Act. There is a brief description in your board report. Basically, I need to report to you that Noyo High School has qualified as a CSI school because of their suspension rate. So we will look to improve that over the next few years. We have applied for funding with that. I don't know if we're going to get it or not, because the issue with the suspension rate was a clerical error in the sense that students were suspended, but they weren't necessarily at Noyo, they were also at Lighthouse, so which school they got designated with. I spoke with a woman from CDE last week, and she said that we wouldn't be getting the funding, and I said to her, if the funding is for school improvement, it wasn't that the kids weren't suspended, it was just that we calculated wrong. So if there's any way to still get the funding so that we can address the suspensions, so we'll see. I'm hoping we get a little bit of funding so that we can use that money to help Noyo Lighthouse, because they share the kids, to do more work with restorative practices and big picture learning, which is their new project-based learning approach to what they're doing on campus. So I'll know more about that in the coming days. But I do need to notify you that Noyo High School is a CSI school. We are officially out of differentiated assistance, so that was a big win. We thought we were free and clear, and we discovered, we got this news a few weeks ago. So next is art district-wide. So one of the things we wanted to report on today was just to show you what's going on in art in the school district. Joanna Wigington is here from Flockworks. Flockworks has been hugely instrumental in working with our schools. One of the things that I appreciate about Joanna and Norma, I was trying to see, Norma's not here, is she? One of the many things I appreciate about both of these ladies is that the message is really about arts integration. It's about integrating the arts into many facets of the day, so it's not just a standalone. Because research clearly shows when that integration happens, when it's integrated into their reading, their writing, their math, their science, their social studies, then what happens is kids have a better acquisition of that content. With the content instruction. So I really appreciate all the work that Flockworks has done to work with our kiddos. We are talking with Joanna and Ms. Erickson and Mr. Kale about hopefully doing some summer activities where we can have more discussion and collaboration around arts integration and how to do that within the given pacing calendars that we have. So it's not just sticking things in because you can, but more of including art so it's a viable part of the program. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to show some of the artwork that's at all of our schools so that you can see what the kiddos are doing. So this is Redwood. We are learning colors and about rainbows and color order.
Oh.
So there's nothing like looking at our kiddos. It says, this seems like a little simple colored paper, but the children worked with using proper pencil grip and making choices about colors. It is I can't.
It's a big step for
Okay, I know, sorry. I'm looking through my bifocals part of my glasses. That's great, isn't it? It is a big step for for the TK. So this is still from Redwood. In my class, we do art every day, and we do an art project once a week. Our art projects usually have to do with a book or subject that we are studying. We are learning about frogs and their life cycles in class and are doing different art projects to support that. We are building a leaping frog booklet of the life cycles, and we will create a 3D poster of their life cycles, room 32. Do we know that's a kindergarten class? And Ms. Kay? Ms. Leland, okay. So those are the frogs. And then room 53 is second grade. And Ms. Lance. My class was inspired by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. In honor of his dreams, we as a class created our own dreams, from career choices to well wishes for others. This was a wonderful way for students to be reflective and enthusiastic dreamers too. Room 53. These self-portrait crayon resist watercolor paintings are inspired by the art of David Hockney, who did a series of paintings of swimmers and swimming pools. When our class finished our swimming lessons at the CV Star, we looked at his paintings and made observations about what he did to make it look like the figures were in the water. And this is room 51, Miss Kafin. And this is second grade projects from room 55, Miss Douglas. And then Dana Gray, students in room 64 made a clothesline full of career goals, jersey t-shirts. And I'm not totally familiar with the numbers, but I believe that's fifth grade room. Students in room 44 created this display in a project entitled Personal Goals and Self-Portrait. Students in room 42 create a year of memories in art and an essay. Now, Joanna, is this, are these things that you worked with the kiddos on? So it's working. Students in room 41 completed a project on the state of California. Students in room 43 put together an autobiography display combining art and essay writing. Students created translucent fish art as part of a project for the Noyo Marine Center.
That is our project.
Okay.
It's being hung right now.
Would you go to the mic? Would you go to the mic, please, Ms. Winnington?
This project is being hung as we speak in Noyo Center. However, the Whale Festival has been canceled. So maybe not all those tourists will leave all their money here. They'll be not coming to town, but everybody should go down and see the fish that are swimming in the window.
How long will it be there, Joanne?
Probably a month, hopefully.
For Bragg Middle School, these are Art 8 students working with designers from the Bragadoon Sign Company on Main Street. Bragadoon printed our students' images as large decals and got student assistance installing them on the Bragadoon delivery van. That's pretty great. That is cool. CTE standards include interaction with real-world application of art skills and knowledge. And Mr. Godak is the art teacher there. Here's a series of recent portraits Art 8 students made of fellow students and staff.
That's my son-in-law.
I was just say, that's what I was just gonna say. I think
Can you
that's a
tell?
relative.
I can tell.
That's cute. There's Mr. Perkins.
Yeah.
And Ms. Shattuck.
Uh-huh.
Those are pretty
Really
good. Here's some recent Art 8 ceramics. We worked with a local artist, Sarah Logan, who visited the classroom and then fired the work. And then Fort Bragg High School. Fort Bragg High School offers visual arts and advanced art for grades 9 through 12. Students completed projects on the elements of design, line, shape, texture, value, space, color, and form. Final projects included a contour drawing of a shoe in colored pencils and a painting of a room in acrylic on canvas. Visual arts and advanced art classes introduce the organization of visual elements on a 2- or 3-dimensional plane. Alternative education, the students are making door panels out of Tyvek to spiff up the classroom doors. This was a student's idea. The students are learning about how paint interacts with various liquids. They have added lotion, rubbing alcohol, and liquid soap to the paint, and the results have been amazing. We have a few alt ed paintings in the district office. Are we done? Oh, we're done. So Joanna Wigington is with us from Flockworks. If you wanted to add, Joanna.
Yeah, it's fun to see this. Kirsten Hanna is also a member of the Flockworks board, so we work with her and she supports a lot of projects, which is really nice. Well, I'm here again tonight because I think the arts are unbelievably important to good education, and the data is now coming in multiple, both the elementary right on through. This district and Mendocino is 4% below the average in California of students enrolled in art. But the data, and the board has 10 quick facts of art that's mostly related to high school. And then you have another little sheet that had to be shared. I think Diana has that one, which is more related to younger students and the proof that arts integration. A lot of people don't really understand what they're getting into when they talk about arts integration, because it isn't just making decorative art. It isn't just pretty things that you color in. It's a whole way of teaching and thinking that goes beyond sort of two-dimensional projects. It actually forces every individual to incorporate a multitude of learning aspects in what they do. And it's really the only way to actually grok any material, is to be able to participate in it fully, to understand it. And the proof of the academic success related to arts integration is just huge. It's not something that can be ignored. And this district has a major problem in testing scores in grade level. And I'm here to suggest that there's a solution to that if we have arts integration thoroughly part of what younger children are doing. And then by the time you get to the place where it's required to be offered in middle schools and high schools, where the only data is kept in some districts is the high school number of, because I think it has to be on the dashboard, then the kids are going to demand it. Parents are going to demand it because it's so clear that it's an essential part of a good education. And I'm talking not just about visual arts, it's also theater and music. So I feel.
Let me just add one thing, Joanna. She talked about the dashboard. Our art program at Fort Bragg High School is part of our dashboard because it's a career technical education class now. So it is a pathway. And so that's where you'll see it. Go ahead, sorry.
Anyway, there are three things that Norma and I keep in mind. Norma is not here because she's taking 4 college courses, actually 5 with the online one, as well as working at Dana Gray every day. The improved school culture, we take very seriously. And when Norma and I looked at that, we said, well, what do they mean by that? Nobody tells exactly what they meant. We said, well, how are we going to improve school culture with art? Well, obviously it happens. Well, she came up with this great idea to do a cultural El Dia del Niño. And it started with just El Dia del Niño. It's a great celebration in Mexico. It happens on April 30th, but May 1st is a Friday, so that might be more agreeable for putting some time into this. By the time we had talked to Mr. Kale and other people and a few teachers, everybody was ready to go, and it became a cultural day of the child. And it's going to be family friendly. We might be able to do it, hopefully, no matter what, because it's really just Dana Gray kids. But we're going to have stations and booths, and it's going to be games and activities and food, and Multicultural Pillars helped us with the food ideas and what can and can't happen. We have multiple people around the community supporting it. The parents' clubs, Safe Passage might have a pair of socks for every child there. Friends of the Library and Little Free Libraries, kids are going to be able to choose a book. Every child will be able to choose a book. So it's just going to be the idea that school is a place of fun and education, and your families and your little siblings are welcome. And, you know, some parents have only come to the school when they've been called because there's a behavioral problem. So you're not being called for that. You're being called to participate in something fun. So that's our school. Closing the achievement gap. Arts integration will do that. Give us 3 years of true arts integration. I don't mean like coloring sheets. I mean absolutely true arts integration, which is a different way of seeing teaching and learning. It's a lot of asking questions. It's a lot of reflecting. It's a lot of making students really think about everything they see. They notice, they notice, they notice, and then they wonder. And that imbues math, it imbues science. You know, we become the STEAM, not the STEM. And you can look at any district that gives art the same level as a core subject, and every one of them is succeeding in spades. It's just dramatic. So that's our spiel. Please come to the May 1st celebration, volunteer, participate, just come for fun. We have a grant in for the California Arts Council. We expect to hear in early April. It's for $19,000. And it's for both Dana Gray and Redwood. We're hoping our private donors will sustain us. They were upset that our time got cut this year. I pleaded a big case to have them continue to support us. That was even more important. So, of course, we're pushing and pleading to have 45 minutes come back. But we really hope that they'll continue so we can have Norma another year. And it's going to be a big transition to do arts integration. It isn't as simple as art, whether you do it here or whether you do it there. It's a bigger picture. I have multiple articles. You can get them online. If anybody's interested in more, I didn't want to load people with stuff unless you're really into reading about this. But I'd be more than happy to do that. Tomorrow I'll be in Arcata all day with Bill Funkhauser, who's the Arts Integration Specialist for Humboldt County. Has a $4 million grant that's training. Some of our teachers are involved in that training. It's a great little beginning, but you got to take that and run with it. You've got to expand that to more teachers and more schools. And we got to do a better job, and we can. We absolutely can. But it's a thinking that has to be even more three-dimensional, is my deep belief, my passion. So
thank you, Joanna.
Thank you for tolerating my passion.
No, we appreciate it. And just a shout out to all the teachers, especially at Redwood and Dana Gray, who devote so much of what they do to integrating art into their lessons. Well, we have amazing educators who have incredible talents, and our kids are the recipients of those gifts. So thank you to our teachers. Okay, moving right along. Redwood enrollment days. So right now, the big thing for Redwood is we need to know who's coming to school next year. So our enrollment days are next week, March 19th and March 20th, from 4 to 6 p.m. And I'm going to read what it says here. Our upcoming new student enrollment pre-registration will open on March 16th, 2020. Forms can be downloaded from the Redwood website or picked up in our front office during business hours, which is 7:45 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. We will hold our enrollment event on Thursday, March 19th and Friday, March 20th from 4 to 6 p.m. on both days. Papers can be returned during the enrollment event or any day thereafter. More information for next year will be provided upon papers being received by our school. So if folks are worried about contact, you're welcome to drop those papers off at the district office as well. I mean, you literally can come in and throw them and leave. But we need the papers. We plan our budget based on kindergarten enrollment. We absolutely have to have as best we can of an accurate count, because what happens is we base our staffing on that enrollment. And if we don't have an accurate number, and then all of a sudden come August, we have 40 more kids show up, then we're scrambling to find teachers and classrooms. So the more our community can help us to get an accurate count, please tell your friends, anybody with a 5-year-old, that's 5 years old, please send them our way to Redwood Elementary so they can go online, download the forms, but we need to know who's coming at us. So please, 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 we're excited for the new kindergarten class and also for TK.
So TK too.
TK as well. So if you have a kiddo who is turning 5 years old between September 2 and December 2, and that is the cutoff. And when you come to me and say, hey, Becky, my kiddo's birthday is December 3, I get to say, I'm so sorry, they don't qualify for TK. And it's a huge bummer. So I apologize in advance. You can send your hate mail to the state. That was their decision. But those are the cutoff dates for TK. So if you have someone turning 5 between those dates, please, 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 please take advantage of those TK days as well. We absolutely need to know how many students we are getting to the best we can. The most accurate information is appreciated.
Okay, thank you. So we're moving on to the nutritional services report with Pilar. Does she need the?
Hello, I'm Pilar Gray, Director of Nutrition Services for Fort Bragg Unified School District. So I'm here today to give you an update from the report that I delivered in August about the many changes that have happened to our meal programs over the last 2 years, and particularly this year for the community eligibility provision. At the beginning of the year, we only had 13 days of data to report on, so I wasn't feeling too confident. Today I have 113 days to report on, so feeling slightly more confident. So revenue is definitely up. The big picture there I presented to you at the board is the differences that we've seen between 18-19 to 19-20. And just at this date of time, and this reflects through August through February, reimbursements from the feds and states were up over $70,000 just so far this year. So that's an average of a $662 per day increase to our reimbursements for our meal sales. And all of our income comes basically reimbursements from the meals that we provide to the students. So reimbursements are a very, very big, important deal to the School Nutrition Services Department. So if that holds for 180 days, we're looking at over $119,000 increase to our reimbursements this year. Yay. A big part of that was our switch to community eligibility provision. For those of you who aren't familiar, that means that all of our students in Fort Bragg Unified now get their meals for free. We don't have to do free and reduced. Some people pay. It's free for everybody. And we get reimbursed on a percentage base.
And let me just clarify, it's free for every student.
Correct. For every student. Adults still pay for their meals. But we get reimbursed on a percentage based on how many of our socioeconomic status of the students, which is very high in this district. So far on average, making it free to all the kids, we're serving about 56 more breakfasts per day. That's an increase of about 5% in our breakfast participation since last year. And we're doing about 90 more lunches per day, so about a 10% increase in our lunch participation at the school sites district-wide. So that's really great that we're feeding more kids. So basically, I had to look at the reimbursements. Everything's gonna have to shake out in the end when we look at actually what the hard costs and everything else. So really, I'm reporting to you on revenue at this point. But I also had to remove the revenue that we got previously from kids who paid for their meals. So, the best adjustment on that one is that for the year to date so far, for just breakfast and lunch, we've increased about $34,000 in reimbursements just through February. The other big change we did over the last couple years was changing from just snack to supper at all the schools, our super snack program, where we're providing them more food and able to claim at a higher reimbursement rate. Interestingly, the participation has gone down slightly at Redwood in middle school, but not a lot. 14 less kids at Redwood, 1 less at middle school than previous years. Dana Gray went up, 23 more. So of all our sites, we're only serving 8 more kids after school, something to eat. But the switch in program has shown a significant increase to our revenue because of the way that we were reimbursed for these as opposed to just a little snack. So we're looking at about a 445-day average increase to our revenue in our after-school program food. So for year to date, that's about $36,000, a little bit over $36,000 worth of increase to our revenue for the after-school food program. The other big change, obviously, was breakfast in the classroom. We did that last year. So we had a full year of data last year to report on. And between 17 and 18 to 18-19, 17-18, we had no breakfast in the classroom. 18-19, we did. We saw an increase of $133,654 in increase to our breakfast programs. For 19-20 so far, we're looking at another $16,000 above that. So, and bottom line, we are serving 394 breakfasts per day on an average just at our elementary schools. So at the elementary schools alone, from before we did breakfast in the classroom to now, we're serving 394 children a day more. So that's a significant increase on how many kids we're feeding, which is bottom line the most important thing. The kids are eating at school, a lot more kids are eating at school. So super happy about that. Three Rivers, we're still vending meals out to them. That is going well. Not as high participation, I think, as any of us might be hoping for, but it's okay. We're feeding some kids there. So we're doing about an average of 23 meals per day for Three Rivers, and it seems to be going very nicely. The relationship's really good between us and the charter school, and smooth sailing so far. Then we couldn't get jicama for a while, but we figured out a solution together, so all's good there. And the board has your numbers there for what we're doing on that. Other news for school nutrition services, just to update you, not everything's been perfect this year. I applied for quite a bit of funding through the equipment grants for stuff we needed for our kitchens. Unfortunately, we were turned down, I believe, because we've been funded most every year for these particular grants, and they prioritize districts who've not received funding, or school sites who've not, and we've got them almost every year. But I did just apply for a different grant to try to get grab-and-go cards for Fort Bragg High School for next year, to help increase our participation there. That's where we're seeing the greatest jump in our participation with community eligibility provision. I was surprised, honestly. I thought open campus, it wasn't going to make a difference. No, it has. We're seeing a pretty good increase to how many high school kids are eating on campus now because we made it free for everybody. So, but I think we would see a more significant increase if they didn't feel so crowded. You know, the student union's a very tight spot, even though we're very efficient, it's very fast. It's an eternity if you're a teenager, and it's crowded and intimidating. So the Vision Go and we get a cart, break up the lines, get them out in the quad. So let's hope we get that grant. I won't know till June. I'll let you know. Super exciting news as far as how partnerships go in our district. One thing I love about this small, tight community is everyone helps each other. Our Fort Bragg High School construction class is currently building us a much-needed storage shed for our high school kitchen. I had tried for a grant for that. They wouldn't fund it, so the kids came to my rescue. Because if you've been in that kitchen, we don't have the physical space to deal with our capacity. And there's boxes piled floor to ceiling. That's crazy. So they're building a wonderful shed. It's a great project for the students. It's very applicable. They have to go through the whole construction process, basically like building a little house, but it's a storage shed. And then our Fort Bragg High School Advanced Digital Media class is currently working on a breakfast in the classroom training video for us. So as we continue that program every year, well, it's only been a couple years ago, and I tell the teachers what to do. Well, now we'll have a nice little video created by our high school students. We've been partnering with some of our 5th grade classes over at Dana Gray to get that done. So we're in the process. We do our round 2 of filming next week. Our Fort Bragg Unified School Gardens are continuing to donate produce to our school kitchens and to the Fort Bragg Middle School Culinary Arts class. So Julie and Iris have been growing food there at the middle school and making sure it gets into our kitchens for those kids and also to the culinary arts, which is really nice. And I'm currently in conversation with our friends and farmers at the Noya Food Forest about changing growing practices, hopefully maybe, for next year to increase our ability to provide even more produce to our elementary sites. And we currently do buy produce from the Noya Food Forest for our school meals. Bulk of it's been going to the high school, which is great because they're right there, but we'd like to see more of it in the elementaries, and Jeremy and Matthew and Emily had some really good ideas about how we could shift what they do to help serve us better. So that's what's going on in nutrition services. Any questions?
I have one, and I'm not sure if it's for Wendy or for Pilar. How much are we, with these new numbers, contributing from the general fund to the nutrition services? Ballpark?
That's a really hard question.
Okay, I mean, we can get
We
back from there.
ballparked based on what we thought participation might be and what the new reimbursement would be. And so that estimate is already worked into the budget. So we haven't had a chance to kind of update it mid-year and see how we're holding out, because early on, because the timing of when we actually get our reimbursements is such that it's really hard to, at any moment in time, see where we are. But my general feeling is that it's holding pretty close to what you were estimating as far as the fiscal benefit to the district.
So do you have a ballpark?
Okay, at the moment.
If you don't, that's fine.
Okay, at the moment, we're budgeting about 180,000 contribution from the general fund.
Okay, well, that comes down from the numbers I remember.
That's down from
significantly.
last year, yes.
Great, thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank
It's
you,
great
Pilar.
that you're feeding more kids and bringing in more money. Are food costs a lot? Do you know where they are?
Well, that's the how that'll play out mostly is most questionable under the community eligibility provision. I mean, it's still going to be more than we did no matter what, because the reimbursements cover more than the food costs, and we have not increased staffing for that program. We had to add a couple hours for our after-school program, but that one it's just phenomenal how much money that one's making, and our costs have been extremely low for breakfast in the classroom and for community for the super snack. The CEP how does the food play out in the end? We have to see, but it's still going to be more than we're making because the costs are covered. But the exact numbers, we don't know until we're done.
Sure.
So, and just truly accolades to the kitchen staff and Mark Tamburini, because if you can imagine, we have 1,800 students in our district, and when we talk about serving 800 breakfasts every morning to just Redwood and Dana Gray, that's an enormous amount of food. And we've had to increase our hours for the courier. Courier's the wrong word, for our warehouse.
We call them courier.
Okay, courier. Because moving all that food around every day is a monumental task. And that's why the construction class has to build a shed, because we went from 0 to 80 overnight. And so where do you put it all? When we went through PSPS, the reason why our freezers held was because we had so much food in there so that we were ready for the Monday. I mean, that was a school week. So when PSPS hit and we were out for 4 days and those freezers were out for 4 days, because we had so much food in there to feed 400 breakfasts every morning at Redwood and Dana Gray, the food held. But the amount of food that's coming in and out of the warehouse is to me, it's mind-boggling. And then you go to somewhere like Ukiah Unified that has 6,000 kids, and I just think, thank you for 1,800 kids.
Right.
It's a lot of movement of food. So where it goes down a little bit, it goes up in areas, but overall, there is more revenue coming in than previous years. Our contribution to the general fund for nutrition services is down. The hope is that when we get to the end of the year, it's even lower than what we've budgeted, so that's the hope. We'll see.
That's looking very positive right now. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
I want to thank you, Pilar, for just going after this and being open for new ideas and taking all this on. So I know that you do a lot with a little, and we thank you for that.
Thank you, Pilar. You do a great job. Thank you.
And thank you to your staff, because you didn't get any more staff and you fed a lot more kids.
Yep.
So thank you,
No
thank you,
one's
thank
going
you.
hungry.
Yep. Okay, council report.
So we are incredibly fortunate that we shifted some of our funding. We used a little bit of a grant to ensure that we now have a full-time counselor at every single school. So Redwood has a full-time counselor, and this is Miss Catherine Bernsdorf. She left her cape in her car, I think. She's doing a great job at Redwood, and we are fortunate to have her skills, wisdom, and expertise with us. So she's going to be reporting on the elementary school counseling, because we have a full-time counselor at Redwood and a full-time counselor at Dana Gray, who is Katie Brickey, and she unfortunately has been ill. She assured me it was not the coronavirus, and I'm not even joking about that. She really did tell me that. So Ms. Brickey, you get well. I hope you're watching. Ms. Bernsdorf, the mic is yours.
Okay, hi. So we collaborated on the presentation. The first part, Katie Brickey put the slides together, so I'll be sharing out her part best that I can. The second half I put together. So just a little overview. The American School Counselors Association recommends a counselor to student ratio of 1 to 250. Right now, Dana Gray, it's about 1 to 411, and Redwood is 1 to 411 approximately, and that's pretty good. The American School Counselors Association also recommends an 80 to 20 ratio of direct to indirect services. So that kind of gives you a framework for what we're trying to do with our students. Two of the pillars of MTSS directly involve a comprehensive school counseling program, inclusive behavior instruction and inclusive social emotional instruction. The third pillar, inclusive academic instruction, is strongly supported by the other two. Establishing and promoting positive behavior interventions and supports, PBIS, is a critical component of the school counselor's work. Research has found that fully implementing PBIS is related to fewer student suspensions, greater academic performance, higher perceptions of student safety and school organizational health, and decreased losses in instructional time, which all feed into improved attendance. Some images for you guys. Most of you, I think, are familiar with MTSS. What we're looking at is the whole child. The image on the right incorporates the RTI, which is just response to interventions, and the right side is PBIS and how they work together with the academic behavior and the SEL component, and in the middle, because we're trying to meet the needs of the whole child.
So I'm going to do some acronym jumping here for the people
Okay.
in the audience. MTSS is the multi-tiered system of support, and SEL is social emotional learning. And I don't know if there were any other acronyms.
Do you want to go back? I think that's it. It kind of
RTI is
has it up
response
there.
to
The
intervention.
umbrella.
Okay, you're
Yeah.
good. Thank you.
Yes. So for Dana Gray, she linked her job duties to the LCAP goals, increase college and career awareness. She's providing in-class lessons focusing on identifying career requirements and characteristics, working with students to develop realistic cost of living estimates, distinguishing between needs and wants, meeting with all fifth grade students to review academic data and begin goal setting, fifth grade field trip to Mendocino College Ukiah campus, and organizing a school-wide career day. In terms of increased student achievement, individual and group counseling geared toward equipping students with the skills needed to succeed in class, oversee and participate in check-in, check-out. It's one of our programs. Work with teachers to develop approaches towards students struggling academically and or behaviorally, conducting circles, sometimes restorative, to help students develop a voice. The third LCAP goal of improved school culture, reigniting PBIS, positive behavior interventions and supports, evaluating current expectations, looking at the matrix of expectations, and retooling the Katya store with more enticing prizes. Lunch bunch, she has a lunch bunch, a group where she eats and plays games during the lunchtime. Morning recess game room, she opens that up for kids that are overwhelmed on the playground, and yard duty. And then she kind of broke down what her week looks like on average. So those are times of contact. So student consults, approximately 15. You can check it out for a minute. Approximately how many times she's doing those things each week. The one that's on the far right called Pod Squad, she said that's a group of approximately 15 fifth graders that are linked up with third graders. Sounds like a peer mentoring. I didn't catch what the acronym stands for, but I really like the idea of peer mentoring. It came up in something we were at this week too.
I should know that.
Well, it's just the
Sounds
dolphin
right.
pod.
No, 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 no,
Something
no,
like
no, no,
something
it
he-
means
Is it
something.
po-
It means something.
Sorry, you guys. If she was here, she would tell you.
Positive.
So that it's like
Oh.
a fifth grade help third grade, and she's facilitating that. Do you want to
Text
look?
my son, he was in.
Should I move on? Okay.
Yeah,
Lunch,
move on.
lunch, and
I'll
game
get
room.
it, I'll get it.
Okay, we can keep going. SSTs on
Something
the right
determined.
are student support teams. Some people call them student study teams. They've also been referred to as student success teams. That's when there's a meeting between an administrator, a counselor, or a psychologist, and the parent of a child, and the teacher. Approximately 3 per week at Dana Gray. Okay, so that's what her week looks like. I threw in a pyramid of positive behavior interventions and supports just to kind of provide an overview again of what we're looking at. So the school counselor role really targets in on Tier 1 universal. That's for all students across settings at all times. And Tier 2 are for some students that are selected that need a little bit higher level of care. And then the Tier 3, the peak would be about 1 to 5% of students that need really targeted interventions. That would be when the school psychologist is involved, looking at assessments or developing individualized education plans. So when I did our Redwood slides, which are coming next, I broke down my duties and responsibilities according to the tiers. So for Tier 1, I participate in all the components of PBIS, which includes the expectation stations, modeling and reinforcing compliance with school rules. I manage the Katya tickets and raffle. We switched things up at Redwood and moved from having a weekly store with a lot of prizes, and we fine-tuned that, and we now have a raffle system going. That's the acknowledgement system piece of PBIS. I support use of the correction systems. That's also part of PBIS. We use a buddy class. We are exploring the use of a rules school, which is something that's kind of been talked about. It's not a whole schooling thing. It's more of how do you go over the rules with the students in a positive way to help shape the behavior towards what you want to see. Teach and support use of classroom management strategies and collect data and make data-driven decisions. That's all part of Tier 1. I also go into the classes several times per day. It's called push and support use of social emotional learning in the classrooms. Our teachers do a wonderful job at this. I think we're working towards getting on the same page with the curriculum incorporated in the day. Right now, I think the teachers can do it as kind of, they're using Second Step and Mind Up, but it's not exactly the same lesson every week, so I think we're exploring how we want to go forward with that. But the Second Step and Mind Up curriculum is great, and that's what we're using. We're promoting and supporting restorative practices in circles. We've had some trainings this year. Part of what I do is I facilitate the restorative meetings between students, between staff and students, and also between staff. And then I attend the staff meetings and encourage positive morale on campus. Last slide for Tier 1. I developed a Redwood Elementary community agency and provider list, and so I'll keep that updated. And it has the spreadsheet. It has all the agencies, and it also then has all the private therapists and then the agencies for mental health or behavioral health. So part of what I do is provide referrals for students and families. Consult with school staff. Looks like about 10 times a week or so I'll be talking with teachers or the nurse or the principal to look at how to support students. And parent education nights. So we're creating community partnership with the support of Ms. Erickson over here. And so far this year at Redwood, we've had a bedtime routine class that I didn't go to, but I think it went great. And then I helped bring Triple P. I brought a Triple P presenter to Redwood. That's Positive Parenting Program. And we did a night where she kind of did an introduction. And then the next class is next month, and I'm helping it's on screen time, the effects of screens on development and how to help manage that. Because, I mean, the idea of getting rid of that is probably not going to happen, but kind of throwing in some parenting tricks on how to work with that. So that's scheduled for April, right? Yeah. And then we had literacy night last night. Okay, so Tier 2, so that's the middle part. That's for some students, maybe approximately 15% of the student body. And that's check in, check out, and small groups. So for check in, check out, there's mentors at Redwood. I help manage the mentors and assign the students, collect the data. Right now, so far this year, we've had 28 students participating. When they meet their goals, which are laid out, it's a national program, then I help facilitate the graduating of the students and transitioning to classroom management strategies. Small group counseling, we're using evidence-based practices and curriculum. The group curriculum is overcoming obstacles. I've also been using something called Me Moves videos. That's now called Calm Connect. And I went to the Parents Club meeting and they're gonna fund me, it's $150. I'm very grateful, thanks guys. So I can purchase the Calm Connect program, and it's a web-based streaming program where I'll get to use it. So what it is it's accessing, it's a science-based visual program. It's these little videos, they're 2 to 4 minutes or so, and it accesses your mirror neurons. So when you get the little kids to do the slow and calm activity in the beginning of group, it synchronizes and it helps to get the lesson taught. So I'm really grateful I'm gonna have new ones, because I've been using the last couple that were free on YouTube, and my students are really ready for some new stuff. So you can kind of see the rest of what I've been teaching. So far I have 35 students participating in small groups or individual sessions. And we at Redwood use a growth mindset approach. So I do individual sessions, some of those. If a student's in need of longer term therapy, then we would help the parent or family access that.
EBPs?
Evidence-based practices.
Thank you.
Sorry. Going over behavioral interventions, how to model that, how to support that, setting up behavior charts with teachers, attending student study teams, that's something that we do, and participate in the solutions team. So that's also, the solution team is when there's administration, the psychologist, the counselor, reading intervention, and behavior or education specialist. And we talk about students, how we can support them. I have 19 students assigned to me. I'm the 504 case carrier. We have 7 students at Redwood with 504 plans. And that involves keeping it up to date in areas, making sure the accommodations are being put into place. If counseling's on the 504 plan, then I provide that. And I help out if there's a mental health crisis assessment or intervention that's needed, and provide referrals. So this is kind of the breakdown of what my day looks like. CICO is the check-in, check-out. So that's the beginning of the day and the end of the day. Getting students started, working with the mentors, making sure that the students that have been selected to participate are like going and attending, and they really enjoy it. Like, it's great being at Redwood with the little grades. Like, I love it because they really like the attention and it gets their day going, and we have great mentors. And then the morning kind of consists of meetings and contacts, pushing in classes, one-to-one, some small groups or dyads. Most of the groups take place in the afternoons. I broke it down. I try to focus on a different grade, either per day or in a time period. Otherwise, I'll feel very overwhelmed. And then the end of the day, we have meetings and checkouts and staff meetings and stuff like that. So it's kind of a breakdown of what's going on at Redwood and Dana Gray. I think everyone's really happy that we have counselors at each site, so hopefully that will continue. And that's it. It's kind of my overview.
I have a quick question. What is the expectation station?
That's when we teach the school rules and we break it down into the location of where we want to go over the behavior. It's part of the PBIS. Each school, well, I know the lower, does the high school have one too?
It's
okay.
Kate.
So we have a binder and there's a matrix and it says like, how do you behave in the hallway? Okay, how are you kind in the hallway? How are you safe in the hallway? And how are you responsible in the hallway? And it's very specific. And so then we break the students apart by grade, and then we break them into small groups, and there's teachers or classified staff teaching, modeling what to do at that time period. It's probably only 3 to 4 minutes per station, and we rotate. And I don't know how it's been in years past because this has been my first year, but Ms. Erickson does it at the return of every time off period. So if there's a week off, when we come back, right away. So when we're teaching the expected behavior, it's kind of like a reminder to everybody. There was usually there's 4 stations, sometimes 5 if we include the buses.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Ms. Bernsdorf, you've done a great job.
Oh, thank
Thanks.
I think she's invested more in tennis shoes. I think you were running around that first week. And
I was wearing tennis shoes. I know, these are so comfortable. But
it's been wonderful having counselors on our campus. They absolutely have earned their weight in gold. So thank you. Thank you so much for your dedication and loyalty to our kiddos and to our staff and our school, our community. And Pod Squad is positive, open-minded, determined. And thank you, Mr. Kale and Ms. Vieira. Oh, okay. So, and that came, you were one of the founding members of that, Ms. Babcock, when you were a counselor and brought Link Crew to us. And so then we brought in Webb, where everybody belongs at the middle school, and then Pod Squad at Dana Gray, and we're absolutely open to talking about something at Redwood. Next month, I believe, we are going to have the secondary counselors. Within the next couple of months, we'll have all of the counselors do a presentation so you can hear what's happening at the sites.
And I just had a quick question. The student study teams, is that just an individual student with the counselor?
No,
Or is
student
it
study
group-
team is a whole team.
Is
So
it-
typically on the student study
But
team.
not more than one student
No,
at a time?
no, it's one,
private?
it's one
Okay,
per
that's-
kid.
That was my question.
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay, any questions or? Thank you very much for jumping in and taking care of our kids. Okay, so we're on to CSEA. Do we have a?
Good evening. My name is Jeanette Sawyer, and I am the CSEA Union President for Fort Bragg Unified School District. We just had a meeting last night. We actually had a quorum this time. Yay! Been really hard getting our classified to come and just come to any of our meetings. So haven't been here because we haven't had quorums for me to bring anything to the school board. So. We did get our sunshine letter approved, and we voted on it yesterday at our meeting, and we will go ahead and set a date. Hopefully Monday I can get all of our negotiating team together, and we can pick some days that would work best for you, Becky. Other than that, we do have a what is the word? Scholarship meeting group together now. We haven't had a scholarship team for a while, and some of our lady members have volunteered to go ahead and start working on our scholarship group. So, and we have, I think, 2 scholarship candidates so far. So, and that'll start after the 16th of March. Other than that, I do not have anything else to report.
Thank you, Danette. And do you have a copy of your sunshine letter for us? Great.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you, Danette.
Do we have anybody from FBDTA?
That's fine. That's fine. Thank you, thank you.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on to the consent items. These are non-controversial and usually don't have anything pressing or needs to be discussed. So is there anything that anyone of the board?
I just wanted to note that there was one change of dates on the second page. The ladies in HR corrected a date that was incorrect, and I
that's
gave
what
you a
printed
copy
up.
with the highlights. Yeah.
So it was moved 6 days. Okay.
Forward.
Right. Okay. Anything else that needs to be pulled for discussion from a board member? Okay. Can you please read the consent calendar?
9.1 warrants dated February 28th, 2020. 9.2 minutes for special board meeting February 6th, 2020. Regular board meeting February 13, 2020. And 9.3 is personnel action report.
Can I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I so move.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Okay. All right. So, should Should we take a little break? Or you want to do that after board action?
Let's get through board action so we can,
Okay.
I feel ya. It's okay, it's all good. It's getting warm in here. Should we open the door?
Sure.
The germs, yeah.
Thank you, Laura.
Fresh air.
Let the germs. Okay, let's keep going. So we're moving on to board action items. The first one is the Three Rivers Memorandum of Understanding. So last month, we had a presentation from Mr. Coy, and we heard all about the great things that are happening in Three Rivers. And that same meeting, it was up for discussion about the memorandum. So here we are. I believe they've done everything we've asked.
They've
Becky
done everything.
recommends
Mhm.
the approval. Is there, I will open it up to the board first, and then I'll see if there's any public.
I missed last month's meeting, but watched, and it was such a thorough, wonderful report. I was newly on the board when we had our first go-around, and it was so overwhelming because we were trying to search for documents ourselves, and some people had different reports. So trying to do it all on our own and assess, all of your years was difficult. So this was just an amazing report. So I really appreciate it. Made it very easy for me to know what you were doing, what you've been doing, and where you're headed.
Okay.
They're doing great.
Well, good. We went through it pretty thoroughly last
Mhm.
meeting, so.
We did.
Yes, we did. Okay. Is there anything you wish to add, or any?
They're just waiting for the vote.
Okay, then I move we approve item 10.1, Three Rivers Charter School MOU.
So the renewal is for
2 years.
two.
Wait,
Okay.
I'll second
hold on,
that.
3.
I
It's
thought it was
three.
three.
The renewal
yeah.
is for 3 years.
Okay.
The original MOU was for 2,
Right,
the
this is
renewal
for
is for
three.
3, which gets us back to the original 5. And then at the end of the 3 years, we will be looking at a 5-year renewal pending no surprises and unforeseen circumstances.
And hopefully a new facility, right, between,
Knock on wood.
okay. So we have a first and
Second.
a second. Any discussion?
Okay. Trustee Schneider,
Yes.
trustee Makala,
Yes.
trustee Mattson,
Yes.
trustee Paoli,
Yes.
and President Babcock.
Yes.
Thanks, Roger.
Yeah,
for
thanks for all you
providing
guys do.
service.
Now you just have
No,
to
you
find
guys
a
did a lot of
facility.
work, so thank you very much for that.
So let's take 30 seconds so that if Three Rivers would like to get up and sneak out, it's way okay, or if the counselor or anybody else would like to take a moment.
Pilar, you can go home too.
You're all welcome to stay. The best part of the meeting is about to come.
Watch from home.
Thank you all for being here. Okay, Madam President.
Okay, so 10.2, teacher choice. Again, this is another item we have seen in multiple months, trying to facilitate a more balanced and less controversial, once teachers move around, placement of students.
So we started having this discussion, I want to say back in September, October. It's been on the agenda quite a bit because we wanted to prepare folks for a change. And change is like a 4-letter word, even though it's not really 4 letters. But when we have some kind of a change in our community, especially with things that we've institutionally done for decades, it can have a shockwave. We have vetted this through our teachers. We've vetted this through both schools. The administrators have both looked at it. They've had discussions about it together. So this is the final form that we are now bringing to you for action that will be implemented this year. Because we have so much turnover in staff or movement in staff in the elementary grades, it's not fair to say, here's a menu, tell us which teacher, your top 3 choices. That is not, that model only encourages anger. Because when someone moves a grade level, they don't get who they want. Now we have intense discussions. So this is the new form before you. It's also accompanied by the board policy, so you can see that it is supported. And both, like I said, Redwood and Dana Gray have looked at it and have blessed it.
Okay. Any further questions or comments?
You guys talked about it quite a bit the last meeting.
We did. It looks great.
I put it in the blog.
Tweak down the road, so it's just
Mhm.
always a starting point.
Any comments from the audience? All right. So can I have a motion to approve the,
I move
Paul?
to approve the teacher choice for parents process, and I believe the policy remains the same. They didn't like there need to be any revisions. It was written broadly.
I'll second.
all right, any discussion?
Okay. President Babcock?
Yes.
Trustee Makala?
Yes.
Trustee Paoli?
Yes.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
And Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
Thank you. So we have 10.3, certification of athletic team coaches. I think this is just a annual/seasonal thing we have to do,
Pretty straightforward.
that everybody's properly trained and certified. So any questions for the staff from us? Anything from the public? All right.
Make a
Now-
motion, we approve item 10.3, certification of athletic team coaches.
A second?
Any discussion?
Okay. Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
Trustee Makala?
Yes.
Trustee Paoli?
Yes.
President Babcock?
Yes.
And Trustee Mattson?
Yes,
Okay.
and thank you all for spending many hours doing this job.
Yeah, seriously.
Right. The coaching.
The thankless job. All right, so this one might be a little meatier. So 10.4.
If anybody
sec-
wants to leave now.
You've been warned.
This is what they've been waiting for.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so this is the second interim presentation, which is where we are as of January 31st. So all of everything that's going on, and even I started this a week or so ago, and it's only become more true that everything is in a state of perpetual motion. So even though this is a point in time, it's already changed. So just wanted to kind of tell you the major things that have changed since first interim. First of all, we have a large increase in our supplemental and concentration dollars. And the reason for that is because of the CEP that we are doing. We no longer ask people to please fill out this form and bring it back to us. We incorporated it into our online registration process. So the families answer the question, they can opt out, but many more of them elected to do it because it didn't mean filling out a piece of paper and bringing it back. It was just all part of the process. So because of that, our unduplicated count went from 72-ish to 80. And that means that we saw a big increase in our supplemental concentration dollars for this year and in years going out. It's actually not going to take full effect for about 3 years because the local control funding formula works on a 3-year rolling cycle. So it's an average of the 3 years. So right now we're working on an average of between 72 and 80. So next year it'll be closer to the 80, and then the third year it'll be, you know, if these numbers hold, it'll be close to that. So that was the biggest change that we saw. And the reason we didn't have it included in first interim was we were afraid to include it in first interim because it was such a big change that I knew there was going to be a lot of scrutiny and there were going to be a lot of questions. And sure enough, they were. The county called me and said, where'd you come up with these numbers? And we actually ran the process by the CDE person who oversees this. We ran it by the auditors, and they all blessed it. So we think we're on pretty solid ground with it. The Medi-Cal reimbursements have resumed. For a long time, well, not a long time, several years, the state was concerned about the reporting process and the veracity of some of the claims coming in for Medi-Cal eligible services. And so a few years ago, they just stopped paying everybody. They went through everybody's account for years and years and years, like 10 years. They went back and looked at everybody's. They did a true up. Some people had to pay some back. We were there. We had a little bit. It wasn't a huge amount. But in the meantime, they didn't give anybody anything either. So we're finally starting to see some of that money. We got about $68,000 from, I want to say, 17-18 already. And some 18-19 money has come in that we don't yet have in here. So that'll be showing up as we get closer to the end of the year. So that's a little more reimbursement that helps us pay for this year's Medi-Cal eligible services, which is mostly our NPA, our
It's our counseling.
Counseling, our outside
Counseling
family
source. Okay,
therapists.
so now this is, when we say counseling, let me clarify that. That is the clinical counseling, the MFTs that we hire for our IEP services. So that's different than our school counselors.
Right. We have, this year, we are getting a one-time allocation from SELPA because their reserves were more than they had anticipated, and to kind of help offset what they took away from us for the transfer of the ED program, they're giving everybody a little bit of this reserve back. So this year, this will help offset our general fund contribution to special ed. We also received a final Title I allocation, a final one from last year. Title I is one of those areas where you are generally allocated a certain amount and you don't kind of get it until you spend it. And we had not spent all of our allocation for the last couple of years. And so because of the timing of that, we're never really sure exactly how much it's going to be. So we didn't have this piece booked yet as a receivable because we hadn't spent it. So we didn't know. So once we spent it, then the allocation comes through. Because we do a quarterly report of our federal dollars that we're holding on to, and they saw in that quarter that, okay, it's all gone. We can start sending them money again now. So in comparing the revenues and expenses, and I tried to simplify this so that it was an easy thing to digest. So this was at first interim. We had revenues of 23.6, expenses of 23, almost 2, and our available fund balance was about 455. Now, the reason that the revenues minus the expenses is not the available fund balance is because the total ending fund balance is made up of restricted, assigned, and all of that. So I just wanted to show you what the available fund balance was then. Now, because of these extra funds that we have coming in this year, we saw an increase of $850,000 in our revenues, an increase of $122,000 in expenses since October, and our available fund balance is up $535. And you're going to say 850 minus 122 is more than 535. Where did that come from? A lot of that is because a lot of the increase came from the supplemental concentration funds, for which we do not yet have a plan to completely spend. So the assigned fund balance includes over $700,000 of that. So that's why, A minus B doesn't equal C. So, and where the increase came from, that $500,000. So the one-time reserves from SELPA were $244,000, which is, for this year, is going to help us with our general fund contribution to special ed.
And SELPA is the special education local plan area.
Yes. Last year, the state put out what was special ed preschool dollars that were essentially unrestricted, designed to help with preschool special ed costs. And what we are doing with that money is offsetting our preschool special ed costs, our general fund contribution there. So those two pieces helped our general fund contribution to those areas a lot this year. The Medi-Cal reimbursement revenue, as I mentioned, was about $68,000. And then we moved positions around in an effort to free up some of our core dollars for other things. We put them into the appropriate resources. A lot of times when we go into the year, we think things are going to look a certain way and people are going to be teaching certain sections of things. And then we get to halfway through the year and realize, oh, that's not really what's happening. So we moved everybody to where they really belonged as far as the resources used. And that leads us to the out years and what's proposed. The COLA, since first interim was reduced, and we've talked about this, from 3% to 2.29%, which is less than the Consumer Price Index increase. The ongoing revenues, and this is based on the governor's January proposals, are receiving COLA only, and that doesn't keep pace with the statutory cost increases. If you look at the common message that was part of the packet that was sent out, they talked about how for most districts their statutory increases are about 4%, and our ongoing revenues are only going up 2.29. That same COLA was applied in the most part to most federal revenues for this year, so there were increases, but not significant increases, nothing above what they absolutely had to. The other proposed increases in the January budget were a lot of one-time, very narrow-purposed things. There was some money for teacher recruitment there, and it's proposed. We don't know what it looks like. We don't know who's going to be eligible for it. There's not been a lot of guidance on that yet. There may be another one-time contribution to special ed preschool, but it's going to be much more restricted in scope. It's going to require us to do something more like supplemental concentration, something more, better, different for our special ed preschool. What else is in there? There was increased funding to special ed in general, but our SELPA was already funded at a level higher than most in the state, so we will not see any increase from that. And that's where, you know, this comes in. We have increasing special ed needs without any revenue increase. And in addition to the one-time money that we're not going to get from the SELPA next year, they also hit us with an additional reduction in an effort to transfer costs to the tiers or the ED program that they're taking. So that's going to be an almost $300,000 total hit next year between the one-time and the additional amount. And then reductions of one-time and deferred revenues are included in here. And in a lot of past years, we have had quite a bit of deferred revenue that we've carried over and one-time money. We are pretty much going through a lot of that this year. So we aren't going to have nearly as much deferred revenue to carry over. So that's why when I show you the out years, you'll see that even though we're getting a little more revenue in, you know, the 2.29% income, our revenue is actually going to go down because we will be spending all of that deferred revenue. So now, here's how it looks. I'm going through, you know, 1 year at a time. So this is the year you've seen. This is where we are right now, and it looks nice. It shows that we have available almost $1 million, and that's after our reserve for economic uncertainty. It's all of our assigned and restricted monies. And then adding, come on, you can do it, 2021, you can see the revenues actually dip a little, and that's because of all those lost revenues and the deferred revenue going away. But the expenditures are still going up quite a bit, and we're deficit spending by $372,000. we have a couple of other things built into here. We have some additional special ed staff that we mentioned before. I think we have one FTE, full-time equivalent, additional at the high school. I think that's about all we have built in there. Because some of those restricted funds are going to be used up, doesn't mean that we aren't going to have those costs. So some of those have been included in next year also because we know we're still going to have them. For instance, CTE, the CTE incentive grant money is not a guaranteed thing. It's supposed to be ongoing, but we can't show it as an absolute because it's not, they don't call it that. They don't call it ongoing. We have a lot of money that we spent in our federal dollars from deferred, that was deferred, especially in the area of professional development, that we know we're still going to need some of that, not as much. So some of those costs are still there, just because we know they're not going to go away. And then the third year is pretty interesting, and this better shows the impact of the difference between our increase in revenues and our increase in costs, and how they don't keep up. The third year, the only thing built into that from year 2 is statutory increases, step and column, PERS and STIRS, and those associated costs, payroll costs. There are no other changes to year 3, but you can see we're still deficit spending by $349,000. So when we get to the end of year 3, we're down to almost $200,000 in unassigned, unrestricted dollars. And one thing to, again, remember there is there's, of those restricted and assigned, almost half of that is, about $900,000 of it is in supplemental concentration dollars, for which we do not yet have a plan in the out years. So that's something we're going to be working on. So now we get to figure out what we're going to do with all of this information. Whoops. I couldn't find a dancing doll that scratches her head, so which is what I usually do when Becky walks in and says, "Can we?" Da, 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 you know, and I say, "Well, yeah, we can do that dance. We can move this here, move that there." You know, so these are our uncertainties. Negotiations is one. We are you know, still have sessions to go with FBDTA and with CSEA, although CSEA is settled till 21-22. The impact, but I wanted to show you the impact of 2% for certificated. So this is where we are now. These are the numbers that I showed you before. And if we add 2% to that, you can see we end up in the hole $178,000 at the end of the third year. So if we're going to make this happen, we are going to need to make some changes and some adjustments. And again, we always, you know, and I say this every time, we know we're going to end up with a little more left over than we show because we know we aren't going to be able to fill all our positions. It's extremely difficult to get, especially in special ed, instructional assistants, and we end up with quite a few positions that end up not filled. So that's why one of the reasons we always end up with a little extra at the end of each year. And this is where the dance comes in, is we have to show budget for those positions, even though there's a good chance we won't fill half of them. But I can't say that because we're flying the positions. So we have to show we can afford it if we're offering it as a position.
And I'm going to jump in here because there's a double-edged sword with that. When we have students with IEPs who require services or direct supervision, then oftentimes, even if we don't fill a position, we're filling it with a certificated person. So then that certificated salary, like a certificated sub, that's a much greater expense than a classified sub, even though we're not paying benefits potentially. So there's a double-edged sword with that.
Right. But this is going to go to the county, and the county is going to look at the deficit spending and say, your deficit spending, what are you going to do about it? And so we'll come up with something. We'll figure it out and see where we can go. they're already not going to be particularly happy with the upper one with no changes in it, because we're deficit spending by over $300,000 in each of the 2 out years, and they're going to say that's not sustainable. And we're going to say we know that, but we, now what's really nice is we've established the reserve, so we can say if the sky falls, we can go there if we have to. So some of the other uncertainties that we're looking at is the impact of the Catholic Church school. They're advertising for a K-2 school next year. We have no idea how many kids that will draw, but they're likely to come from our community. Our own declining enrollment, from what our certified enrollment is, we're already down 21 kids since October. So that's going to hurt our ADA for P2, period 2, which comes up at the end of this month. So that means our revenues aren't going to be as high this year as what we have. I don't have that adjustment in here yet because I just got these numbers yesterday. So that's going to be a little bit of a challenge for us.
May I make a comment?
Yes.
So when we talk about the impact of 20 students, 20 ADA, average daily attendance, you can just do some quick math and say it's roughly $10,000 per kid. So 20 kids is $200,000. I was talking with a community member and they said, well, Becky, if you lose 20 kids, you just eliminate a teacher. We don't pay our teachers $200,000. If only.
Yeah.
So that's when it becomes tricky. So when you look at the impact of the potential loss of ADA for the Catholic Church, I had met with the priest, very nice man. He had said that their hope was to get 20 kids. So now we have a loss of 20 kids already. Now we add in another 20 kids. Now if life were just picture perfect with a bow, it would be 20 kids of all the same grade level so that it would be easier to do a reduction. The reality is it's going to be little here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there. That won't equate to a teacher. Not that we want to eliminate our teachers, but it won't equate nicely to one staff member or one position. Does that make sense? So what is truly uncertain about this is how you mitigate that cost. It's not as easy as saying, well, we'll just reduce staff. Our contract language is very clear that our TK to grade 3 enrollment, the cap is 24. Our grade 4 and 5 enrollment, the cap is 28. 6 through 12 is 30. So if we reduce 20 kids, say 2 kids per grade, 3 kids per grade level, 2 kids per grade level,
Nothing.
we have to maintain our staffing. So then it becomes, where does that money magically disintegrate from? And so that's why some of this is tricky, and it's uncertain. We don't know. We have no idea who's going to disenroll in August or not show up.
Other uncertainties are, our facilities. We do have some facilities that need a lot of care right now, and so some of those, we're seeing some increased costs in some of those areas. Economic uncertainties, I think that's been pretty clear. And again, this was, I started this a week ago, and it's gone more and more true. We've got, we've been anticipating a general cyclical downturn at some point this year anyway, but that's obviously been exasperated with the COVID virus issues. The November election is an uncertainty that will likely impact the school funding. The coronavirus, we've seen the stock market go absolutely crazy, and the impact on the economy overall is going to be huge. It's going to be big. The NCAA tournament canceled. Disneyland is closed. Travel bans. People aren't flying. People aren't staying in hotels. People aren't going out to eat. These are all things we need to do, but you think about the trickle down of the economics of that. All the people that work at stadiums, the NBA canceled the rest of their season, the NHL canceled the rest of the season. So think about the ripple effect of that through the economy is going to be, it's going to be huge. And we don't know how long it's going to take to recover from it, and we don't know what impact that's going to have on the May revise. My guess is that some of that one-time stuff is probably not going to happen. There may be an adjustment to the COLA, we don't know. I mean, there are so many things that could impact this.
And even to our own community, the Whale Festival not being here, that's an enormous amount of taxes to our city funds, just in the tourism tax.
Right.
So there's going to be a domino effect. And then adding to the uncertainties, I met with our special education staff last month because we have more students qualifying. And literally, we were sitting and trying to figure out how to address the population in our special education classrooms, because as of right now today, we have to hire 3 additional teachers for next year. Okay? And let me tell you, 3 additional teachers for special ed, they get a higher rate of pay, as well they should. But that's not just 3 teachers. You don't hire just a special education teacher. You hire typically 2 instructional aides with each one. So we were not anticipating 3 additional full-time equivalents for special ed for next year, in addition to 6 classified special education aides. And then when we talk about the 1 additional teacher for the high school, we have a larger freshman class coming in, and the current freshman class, who will become sophomore class, are so large that we don't know if we have enough math and science sections for them. So that's where that 1 FTE is coming from at the high school. So these were all things that we did not anticipate in August. And I have to tell you, you could have pushed me over with a feather when we sat and did the special education talk. The impact of 3 more special education teachers and 6 aides is over a $300,000 impact to our budget. And then you hear about the potential loss for the Catholic Church. There's 20. We lost 20 already from October. So these are real conversations that we are going to have. And God bless our staff. They're doing all of this hard work, and they're saying we're watching all these increases happen in other counties and other places, and we deserve an increase. And they're absolutely right. They're absolutely right. So how do you do it? So these are the things that we are kind of holding our breath about. And I have to tell you, this coronavirus, whether anybody wants to admit it or not, I mean, I have to tell you, it's going to hit us. It is going to fiscally hit us. You cannot just stop a revenue stream for 30 days and not expect that our state budget is not going to be impacted by that. This is serious. And we are all going to smile and make it work. And people are going to say, well, Becky, you always find the money every year. It's not about finding the money. The doors are opening in August. The kids are coming, whether we are ready or not. So these are things as a board you will be grappling with, and we are going to have some very uncomfortable conversations. The Becky Walker voodoo dolls are on sale right now if you'd like to purchase one.
Okay, the other thing that,
Oh, boy.
I think it's probably like the next to last one. It's the one that says uncertainties. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. In case you wanted a quick review of it.
Don't it?
Yeah, I didn't know it was going to be that loud. It wasn't that loud on my computer. Okay, so here we are. I can go from there. So because of the economic uncertainties, especially in the market, that puts another question mark on the impact on our STRS and PERS rates. If the investments don't perform the way the STRS and PERS actuaries think they should or were going to, then they have to adjust it somewhere. So it might not be next year, it might be the next year, but there's a good likelihood that those rates are going to jump again a little bit. So this is our balancing act, and you can't see the words on there, but and I can't even see it from here. So we've got on the right-hand side, I have, all of the things we want, a balanced budget, higher salaries, maintain our facilities and maintain our programs. And then, on the other side, balancing that out is COLA only, which doesn't keep up with CPI and statutory, PERS and STIRS costs, which are already going up and likely to go up more, enrollment fluctuations, and our special education population and costs. So we have to be grappling with as we look at the budget for next year and the 2 out years. So that's all I have.
Well, I just want to say thank you for the summary at the beginning and the highlights. It really is very helpful to see what you're pointing out, some things we have to watch out for, some things that may be working well, and just appreciate the summary.
That made it very clear.
Good.
Yeah, thank you.
And has the county seen our interim or not yet?
Not yet. They
Not
don't
the
see it
first
until you approve it.
Okay.
Because you could say, I don't like this, go fix it.
Okay.
And I would go back and fix it and bring it back to you in a special meeting and then send it to them. But no, they haven't seen it yet. I did see a preview of the letter that they were sending us about first interim, which commented on deficit spending in the out years without mentioning the reserve. And I emailed her back and I said, that all looks pretty good, except you didn't mention the reserve. Yes, we're deficit spending. Yes, we know we're deficit spending, but we are establishing this reserve. And one thing, we did continue to make a contribution to that is built into this. What's also built into this, and I think I mentioned this a couple of months ago, there was a little bit of money left over from our solar credits after we paid for the district-wide wireless project that I am recommending we include in that, which at the end of this year would bring that your target of 3% reserve. This would bring us to about 2.1 at the end of this year. So it would be moving us in the right direction. So that is built into this for full transparency.
But you think they'll be okay with the amount of deficit spending?
No.
Well, okay, let me rephrase that. Are we
But-
gonna get a?
No, we're not gonna, it'll be a
They'll
positive
comment.
certification. They'll comment, but we're positive at the end of the third year. We know that we always end up with a little more left over than we said. It's finding ways to do those other things in the out years that are gonna be the challenge. So they're not gonna see those ugly numbers because they aren't in here yet. We haven't processed those in here. So no, they'll comment and say your deficit spending in the out years, and you're gonna have to be careful, and we'll say, yes, we'll be careful, and we have our reserve to fall back on if the sky falls, and we know we always end up with a little more than we budget.
Because this second interim is much, much better than last year's. The ending balances I pulled from last February. So that's really all about the supplemental concentration funds.
A lot of it is that.
Which is amazing. I mean, it's substantially better. So you're thinking it's, going to help, but we're also, like you said, you're building in a little bit more reserve. And then does this include, I can't remember the account, but they didn't require us to put a certain percentage of our general fund or our total budget for the maintenance. What was it called? It was
routine restricted maintenance. No, that's a 3% contribution.
So
every
that's
year.
in there now.
Yes.
Because it had been kind of not required.
For a couple of years, they didn't require it, and then they inched it up to 1%, 2%, and then this year it's gone back to the full 3%.
And so what is that money sitting there doing? Is it just kind of like our
No, it goes into a special restricted resource, and it's used for routine restricted maintenance. A portion of all our custodians are there. Our maintenance crew is paid for out of there. So a lot of things that we do repair-wise come out of there.
And is there another account for facilities that we're saving towards, or it would be something like that account?
There is a capital, a developer fee fund, and there are still some old redevelopment agency monies that are coming in because where we were getting those funds haven't wrapped up their redevelopment agency completely yet. So they call it the redevelopment agency successor, something, something, something. But as long as they still have activity, we will still collect some
income.
money from that. So we do have some money that is there, and it is restricted to use for facilities.
It's probably just a few $1,000, a few $100,000.
It's
Yeah.
you know, several $100,000 at this point,
Okay.
which we will probably need for, as a match for any funding that we might try to get to do any of the major things that we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And just someone's going to ask, and if no one does, then I'm just going to put it out there. Our supplemental and concentration funds are designated for our unduplicated count. That's our socioeconomically disadvantaged, our English learners, and our foster homeless youth. That is not a fund that we can say raises for all. That fund is designated by the state, where we in our LCAP outline where we are doing more and we are doing better things for our unduplicated count. Because our unduplicated count is so high, we can use it for all students. But we cannot, the county will not approve our budget if we say we are going to take a 2% raise out of our supplemental concentration. So it's not to be used for raises. So if you're thinking that, stop, because it's not allowable.
Now, admittedly, some of our staff is funded out of supplemental concentration. So the portion of our staff that's funded out of that we would use supplemental concentration funds for any increase there.
But we can't put things like the general fund contribution to special ed can't be placed in there.
No.
The general fund contribution to transportation can't be placed in there. The general fund contribution from nutrition services can't be placed in there. Does that make sense? So we can't say, well, we get funding for this, but we spend over it, and that overage we're going to throw in supplemental and concentration. It doesn't work that way. We have to document that we are doing more and things better.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
No.
Anything from the public?
That was former Superintendent Steve Lund who said good luck, and he's waving because his mantra is, I'm retired.
Okay, if we don't have any further questions or comments, can we have a motion?
I move to approve the second interim report.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
Excuse me. It's not coronavirus. Mary Mackler? Sorry, Trustee Mackler?
Yes.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
Trustee Paoli?
Yes.
And President Babcock?
Yes. Okay, intern permits for certificated staff. We have
This-
3.
Just business as normal. Keep going, sorry.
So we have 3 people to add to our intern list. It's routine. We have to acknowledge and send them to CDE that they're here. Any questions or? All right, can I have a motion? Oh, anything from the public? Okay.
I
Make a
move
motion,
that-
we
oh.
approve item 10.5, intern permits for certificated staff.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay, Hannah?
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
Trustee Paoli?
Yes.
Trustee Mackler?
Yes.
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
And President Babcock?
Yes. Okay, now we have consider CSBA delegate election ballot. And we received the ballot. Anna has it down there. And there is no buddy on.
There is nobody.
Right.
This is last year's.
So we have been informed, everybody got that email, right?
Yes.
Okay. So about doing a write-in. So we have one vote needs to be postmarked by the 16th. And so we need to take action if we would like to put the suggested person. Becky, you have met him?
Yeah, he's nice. I mean, Deb Cuban recommends him. He's on the Ukiah Unified School Board.
And she's the
Deb Cuban is the superintendent for Ukiah Unified. It's one of her board members. I believe his name, Mr. Nelson, Trustee Nelson.
That's who. I actually, I emailed him last night because I remember he wanted to, he actually was on the ballot last year and I think Middletown, Tucker won. And so I reached out to him to ask if he was still interested and he said thumbs up. So I was gonna, Tyler Nelson.
Tyler Nelson, that's it.
Okay. And this person represents our region at all California School Boards Association activities and does legislative work and things like that. So in my opinion, anybody that wants to do that job and is, it's a lot of, Jennifer did it for us, Jennifer Owen, for many, many years, and she spent a lot of time doing great work, but it is a lot of time away from, and we live in such a remote area, it's hard to get, Kai's a little bit better. So if we have an endorsement and a volunteer, I think it's great. Anybody else?
He's very reachable, which I like as well. So he always seems to respond, which is nice to have as your advocate.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Do we want to endorse the write-in and use that as our vote? If so, can we have a motion?
Do you have a reason not to?
The fact that I don't know him.
He's a good guy.
I nominate Scott Snyder.
I think it's important to have representation, so if some of you know him and you think it's a great idea, then I'm certainly not gonna.
Or we can not send in a ballot. We're not.
I think we should do it.
Yeah, I think it's important to
good
have
guy.
representation from somebody
Okay.
in our area.
He's very accessible.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay, Mary?
Oh, I move we approve the CSBA delegate election, or delegate Tyler Nelson.
So we're gonna do a write-in.
Yep.
Sorry.
All right, and a second?
I will second.
And any discussion?
Okay. Trustee Schneider,
Yes.
President Babcock,
Yes.
Trustee Paoli,
Yes.
Trustee Mattson,
Yes.
and Trustee Makala.
Yes.
Okay. I know we've got some people hanging in there, so should we just keep going? Is everybody okay?
They're begging you to keep going. I can
Yeah.
see it in their eyes. We're
Take
moving
a
along.
All right. I will keep my legs crossed.
Uh-oh.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm good. Information and discussion. I know Mr. Becker is here. So the adoption of some social studies books from Fort Bragg Middle School. Do you want to share?
Sure. We'll talk about it for a brief minute.
You waited all this time. You can have a couple.
Well, thanks. So we're long overdue for adopting materials for social
will you
studies.
introduce yourself? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Richard Becker from the Fort Bragg Middle School. I teach social studies. And we're long overdue for a textbook adoption. And we put this off for a while because of the shift in the standards originally, and then the shift in technology and our access to technology at our school, because education's in this flux, and so we finally are now one-to-one with computers, and so having a digital platform that works really well for us for a lot of materials is really important. So we've been testing out some different textbooks and their curriculum. Also, we want ones that really link up with the English language arts standards. So for the last couple of years, we've been working on this, and so now's our time to make a move. And so we've kind of decided on a publisher that we like because of how it's integrated with the standards is our big selling point for the McGraw-Hill textbook, although all three are on display at the district office for parents and community members to look at. We brought it to the Parents Club a couple weeks ago and talked about why we like the McGraw-Hill textbook and the curriculum that goes with it. Bottom line is that it's closely linked to the standards, and it has a really good online platform that also links up with what the language arts department's been doing for the last couple of years. So that's the one we want to go with.
So the books are on display at the district office. We are required to have them on display for 30 days. And Mr. Becker, I believe you brought them over a couple weeks. February 6th. So they've been on display for 30 days. So we could actually put this on the agenda either in the special board meeting on March 19th, so we can just get it moving. We've had the 30 days. Or we can put it on the agenda for the regular board meeting, which is April
16th, I think.
16th. Either way, whichever board meeting it's on, we can get it through. What we do need from the department is just the rubrics that you use so we can see the analysis that happened. So if you could get those just copies to Anna. And actually, I'm going to take it back. We can't put it back on the March 19th meeting because we need to inform the public that they're on display. So let's wait for the April meeting. Get us the rubrics when you have the chance. And then once that approval process happens, then we will work with the business office for the PO and getting them all organized and ordered.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Becker.
So this is where our lottery money is going?
Yes.
Part of it, 1/3 of it? And is the online component in the cost that's budgeted? Do you know if that's extra or? it's
I
in-
assume so. Usually the costs come through with everything included, the teacher manuals, the online
Great.
component, and sometimes other workbooks and,
Okay.
and we'll see once the paperwork comes in.
Here's the rubrics I have right now.
Oh, that is fantastic.
We got one more.
Nicely done.
I just want to thank Mr. Becker.
And Mr.
because-
Schubert is here as well.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Social Studies Department, for coming, because I've been on the board for 4.5 years, and I don't think there's ever been a teacher here for this. So thank you very much for the time to do those and to actually be here and talk about it, because it makes it more alive when you explain why you're picking a book that you are versus us trying to read that and decipher, well, these yeses say this, but yet they're recommending this book. And anyway, I just thank you very much for taking the extra step.
Mr. Schubert?
Go to the mic.
And introduce yourself, please.
I'm John Schubert. I'm work with Mr. Becker. I'm 7th grade history. You asked about an online component. What the package really comes with is the teacher manuals. I actually have, Mr. Becker's got the big fat teacher manual over there. I have a couple of books that are over there, which are a whole book on project-based learning, another whole book on assessments. Of course, there's the student edition. And what each student gets is a consumable workbook, and I believe the adoption covers consumables for 8 years. The online component is big. So as Mr. Becker and I have discussed many times, there's more stuff than you can possibly use in any kind of a lesson. So you have a big variety of things to choose from, whether it's assessments or projects, ELA, ELD, stuff like that. It's tons of stuff. So I don't think I think that just comes with the whole purchase of the package is you get all those components. It's not an extra to get the online thing. In fact, we already have if you will, a beta testing thing for the students right now to be online as we do the piloting. So
Thank you.
it's good.
Thank you,
No
thank you.
problem.
Awesome.
Thanks. So families, they are on display at the district office, so you can go by and check them out. When you drop off your kindergarten
That's right.
registration and all these other things that need to be done.
Thank you, folks.
So, I have a question. So we went into information and discussion, but I don't see that we read the resolution. So wasn't in the action area?
Oh, for the write-in? Or, I'm sorry.
No, the non-reelection of temporary. We never approved that in open session. So I thought that was going to be in the action
Right.
area.
I thought we just reported out.
Yeah.
We
Because
reported
that
out
action
after
was-
Okay.
closed.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, okay, perfect.
Right?
Well,
Okay.
normally we read it out loud, but that's fine. I'm just pausing. We're good. Just want to make sure that we took action.
Yes, we did take action.
Okay, enclosed, but then
Yes.
usually we read it in open. I was just making sure that we're good.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't read the resolution, you do report out that you've made the decision to do that step.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Diana. Okay, so the Noyo Food Forest lease. We had a speaker at the beginning. We're up June 30th. I don't think there's been any, we haven't heard about it anyway, any problems with them
No,
using them?
Noya Food Forest has done an amazing job with just the space out there. There's a much better relationship with the district than I think we've had in years, because, you know, when you bring in ag and you're bringing in, we're renegotiating space, that's always a little touchy. It's been going well. The financial security of Noyo Food Forest at one point was in jeopardy, but I don't believe that's any longer the case. You want to talk?
We have our challenges.
They
How does it feel to be up there on that side of the
I have my time in the barrel once a month, so thank you very much, Madam President. No, Steve Lund, and I'm on the board of the Noyo Food Forest, and yeah, we have some economic challenges. In fact, we're going to make a decision probably by Monday about upcoming Earth Day event, which was scheduled for April 25th, and it's possible, and I would say probably likely, that we'll postpone it till the fall, which actually might be new and unique. The garden is in a better state of abundance in the fall, and school would be starting and having an event together to celebrate the start of school, and hopefully we'll be through this current period of trial. But I did want to introduce Jeremy and Matthew. Jeremy's our garden educator, and Matthew is our incredible do-everything support person at the garden, and he's our gardener as well. And without them, we wouldn't have a Noyo Food Forest. So, and just on a personal note, 2006, the food forest started, and the district stepped up and entered into that partnership, and we've been together ever since. And I just want to say thank you to the board and to Becky as superintendent and everybody that's involved in the district that assists and supports us, Pilar too. Because it's an incredible partnership, and what we do with students, for me, has been the most rewarding part of the whole relationship. So thank you for considering our lease extension.
And
So-
if you didn't pick up on that before, Mr. Lund was the superintendent of Fort Bragg Unified School District for
8 years.
Let's say many years, yeah.
That's about so that's why I was razzing him a little bit. Being out there at our
9
place.
years, almost a decade. I'm in awe, trust me.
So, any questions from the board?
I just wonder with our budget crisis if we should consider doubling the rent.
It's $1.
Let's go for
No, I think it's great. I had kids go through the intern program over the summer, and it's just such a great educational experience, and I think it's great to have on the grounds. And just it's a really good presence. So thank you for all the work. I know it's a lot of volunteer time and staff time at low rates, and it's greatly appreciated.
The current lease expires in June, which is why we wanted to get it on the agenda early for discussion. So if there's any questions that you wanted to ask, we're going to bring this before you in April for approval so that this is done and Noyo Food Forest can take a deep breath. I don't think any of us are worried about this, to be quite honest with you. They're doing a great job. The only other time that we had to worry about this was because we were worried about their financial solvency. Even if we are worried about their financial solvency, there are places in the lease where either party can back out. So no one's really worried about it, to be quite honest with you. They do a great job. They serve our community. So you can look for this as an action item in April.
And just one quick question. So it does talk about improvements and the premises. Things are in pretty good shape? Fairly good shape?
Rotary
poor
just
shape?
helped tear down a building. I heard about that.
Yes. We're doing the best we can. I mean, we have some challenges just like you do with some of your aging facilities, but everything is safe and workable. And again, the credit goes to the staff for keeping it operational, much like your support staff. We did, actually the tool shed was in pretty bad shape, and we actually took that down with the help of the Rotary Club the last couple of weekends. So we need to figure out maybe what we're going to do for a new tool shed. It may be one of those metal shipping containers, but a final decision hasn't been made yet. So
You could talk to our building and construction
Construction.
program.
that's a
Just a thought.
possibility. We may need it sooner though. I hear they're busy.
Keeping them busy.
And how are the
Different
bees? Are the bees still okay?
We don't have the bees
No more
anymore,
bees.
other than visiting bees that enjoy the garden, so.
Thank you, Mr. Lund.
Any other questions? Anybody else from the public? Okay, thank you. Okay, so we will see that again next month. Okay, kudos. There's-
Kudos. So we have before you a letter that we sent, and I know Beth Pine is here, who's one of our kudos directors. We sent a letter out to families regarding the fee schedule, and we are bringing this before you in discussion because.
Becky, do you want to go ahead and pause?
Oh,
You guys-
sorry.
We'll just let.
Have a good night.
No, I try to do that so that you guys can slip out without feeling awkward.
It's okay. We'd all go home too if we could. But this is an invigorating meeting. We've had more people than we've ever had. It's been super fun. We've had great kid pictures.
Yeah, we've seen kids. That's exciting.
So we are bringing this letter to you so you know what we had distributed in February. One of the concerns that we have is the domino effect when we have families who are late. Recognizing that no family wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to be a half hour late to pick my kids up from kudos, okay? It just doesn't happen, and we recognize that. One of the domino effects that happens, though, is that then our directors are staying behind, our staff potentially are staying behind, and that's a long day for our kiddos. So imagine a mama or a papa or a grandma or grandpa or a family member who's late to pick up a 5-year-old kindergartner or a 10-year-old fourth grader, and they've been at school since 8 o'clock in the morning, and now it's 6:45 at night or 6:30 at night. And so one of the things that we have brought at our kudos staff meeting with all the directors is what do we do with it? You know, how many times late is okay? Right now, we are thrilled that we are operating kudos within the grant. There is no general fund contribution. When we came to you a couple years ago, we said this was the goal. The goal was to remove the general fund contribution to kudos. We've done that. My concern at this point is looking at our kiddos. It's not a healthy day for them, recognizing that we know that our families need this, but bringing a policy to you that says, you know, how many times is enough for us, because we can't continue to have our staff also stay that late. Make sense? So because it's a policy that we want to have you consider and discuss, I'm bringing that to you in discussion right now. We're talking to our kudos coordinators at the sites, and I believe we've talked about 5. Does that sound right, Beth? 5 tardies.
I thought it was even maybe less.
Was it?
Maybe it was only 3.
Okay, so this is a point of discussion. How many will we accept? We do have a waiting list for our kudos program. That's the other part. We have families who want to get in kudos. So how do we tighten it up a little bit more? So something to consider, that we're going to bring to you as an action item in April, because we will be doing the kudos registration in May. So before we do the kudos registration in May, we need to make sure that we inform our families of any potential changes that we're going to have for the following year. And the only change that I would anticipate at this time is putting a number on the amount of tardies, because the fee is not stopping the tardy. And it's having an impact on our staff, and we do have a waiting list. So, questions?
So this is not in effect now.
No.
This would be for next year.
We are implementing the fee schedule, so, and what's really difficult is you have your coordinators who have to coordinate that fee, you know, because we're a small town. Do you report the fee? Do you not report the fee? You have to report the fee, because we have to show why the coordinators or the staff who are staying later, why their timesheets have a longer time. Well, if their timesheets have a longer time, then there's got to be a reason for that. So, you know, it's hard, and you're looking at your friends and neighbors in the community. No one wants to charge a fee. The difficulty is that we can't continue to pay our staff to stay over.
Right.
So it's a double-edged sword, and we're not trying to be the big bad guys who are, you know, laying down more laws and regulations. The hard part is that we have to protect our staff, and also we have to protect our kiddos too, you know, that's a long day, it's a long day.
And so what is the fee right now, or
The
there's?
fee is in the letter, so right now the fee is, if parents arrive at between 6:01 and 6:05, it's a $10 fee per student. If they're there between 6:06 and 6:10, so they're 10 minutes late, it's $20. It's pretty much $10 per 5 minutes.
But right now, there's no fee.
No, the fee is there.
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
It's
We're
just
paying
the-
it.
We're,
just-
no,
okay.
we're charging it,
Mhm.
but it's not deterring it.
Right.
And so if we say, and we're accruing that on staffing time as well. So, what's the limit? The directors are frustrated, the staff is frustrated. And I know our parents are frustrated too, because
They're
again,
probably
it's not
working.
purpose. You
Yeah.
don't say, let me go make people mad today. But it's also really super hard on the kiddo. It's a long day. So what's the limit? Is it 3? Is it 5? What is it? And so that's the discussion. And we just need to have it in the policy with the packet before we begin the next kudos.
And I know this isn't a solution, but we took the busing away at the end of the day, right?
We did.
To save, you know, to
Becau-
keep
yes.
to
And-
curb
and
that.
that's
And
one-
that's probably, this is a aftermath of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's helping our pocketbook, but it's creating this
Mhm.
other new issue. Do the families, they don't have any alternative person to pick up? I mean, you don't have they don't have access to the school?
We've suggested that.
Right, to
We
say when
can't.
you're running late from work, I
Right.
know, I mean, I get that, but they've been counseled that they're thinking outside the
Yes.
box.
Yes. And again, no one does it on purpose. We know that. The hard part is we are in this rock and a hard place. We have to protect our staff. We have to look out for the kiddos. And we have a waiting list. So we have moms and dads who are saying, hey, look, I've been waiting all year to get in.
Right.
I'll pick up my kid on time. So that's the other hard part. And I don't know the answer. I'll be really honest with you, because I can see both sides of this. But I just have to reiterate, it's a long day. And it's not our middle school kids. These are our Redwood and Dana Gray kids.
Well, and I know as a parent, I mean, to me, attendance and being late are kind of the same. I mean, as far as getting in trouble, if your kid's not coming and you're taking a spot, and then you're late, you're taking a spot. So I don't know what the recommendation, but I don't know. 3 seems like quite a few.
Yeah, I agree.
When most people
That
are
coming from a coordinator too, also because they're
Right.
frustrated, so I get it. And it is, you know, the hard part is that from the outside looking in, we can all say, well, 6 is not an unreasonable time to come and pick up your kid. It's already a long day, 6 o'clock. So we have to do what we feel comfortable. We can try 5 and see if that works, and then bring it down to 3 if it doesn't. I'm a little nervous about 3. I think 3 would support the coordinators completely. We do have a waiting list, but that's tight. You know, it's a 10-month, almost 11-month school year. So
It is, but if $10 for 5 minutes doesn't stop you from coming late, I mean, that's like half an hour late, you're $60. That's a lot of money, so I feel like 3 is probably plenty of tardies.
you're the board. You set policy. So I'm bringing this to you now.
Well, what's the other thoughts?
Whatever works.
I mean, and this is not a big impact item, right? This is not something
Right.
that's
Well,
impacting our budget, but
Well,
it's gonna
right.
impact our families. And,
Right.
and for 90% of the families, they won't care because they pick up their kids on time.
But it
This is,
also affects the families on the waiting list,
yes, it does.
so.
Or
that's
the
both
staff's
sides.
time.
And the staff.
And that is a,
Is
I mean,
is
I
it
know it's
off,
not thousands, but.
are the late fees offsetting the overtime? I mean, you've kind of
Somewhat.
calculated that plus or minus?
It's also chasing more families down for more money.
Yeah, which is
I mean, that's a real
difficult.
drag.
That's
I just have to be
terrible.
honest with you.
It's terrible.
Yep.
Not fun. So,
Yeah, I like 3 too.
okay. So again, it's not an action item right now, and we're gonna
Mhm.
bring it back for action in April. So, Beth, let's make sure we put this on our monthly coordinator meeting and we come in with a real solid recommendation, and then we'll have a solid recommendation from the coordinators for you next month. And if you have a really strong opinion about it either way, we have more time to discuss it next month, so.
And maybe poll random sample of both late and non-late families and see if 3 seems way out of, I mean, I'm sure the people that if they're more than late than 3 times, they're gonna say, no, that's not enough. But the families that are traditionally on time, do they think?
It's not a whole lot. There's not, most families are way before 6 o'clock.
Right, I know, but I mean, if you kind of sampled, I mean, it's easy if my kids are kind of, well, Ryan still goes, but kind of, we're all kind of out of the kudos age, but, you know, but I could get there or get somebody else to come get my kids, so I'm lucky. So.
Go ahead, Beth, go to the podium, please. Pull the mic down and state your name, please.
Beth Pine, Dana Gray Kudos Coordinator, and I just wanted to make a couple of comments because in your packet you have the whole letter that was sent home, and from what I've gotten from the letter just over the past few days, it's kind of like Becky said earlier. Anytime there's like a change or what's perceived to be a change, there's some pushback, and even though all of this was stated at registration. Some of the parents have, you know, it's like they've seen it for the first time, that there's an attendance policy, that there's a discipline policy, that there's a late policy. And I've actually gotten more pushback on the attendance policy, which is required by the grant, and we can't change that. But we've also said this year that other than alternative activities, they really need to be there till 4:30 to get their academic time in. So there's been more pushback on that. I haven't heard no comments about the change in the idea of dropping kids based on late. You know, there's been the whole thing of we'll drop your kids if they're not in attendance. That's been more of a concern because I think the parents would like to think that they can pick their student up 3 days a week and hold the spot for 2 days a week. And you know, that has happened. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
So we sent this letter home just so that parents knew that this was a consideration if they wanted to come to the board meeting. So we're trying to do this all in a timely manner so no one feels like we're pulling the rug out from under them or something sneaky's going on. So this letter was sent at the end of February.
Yeah, the only thing I would consider is if it is 3 or whatever it is, that they provided some sort of written warning, like one more time, you're late, you're out. So.
We do that now with attendance.
Okay. Well, if we do the late pickup, maybe do the same thing.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, anything else? Thank you. Okay, so Becky's been working on our LCAP feedback.
Do you want to take a break or you want to keep going? This is going to be fun stuff, folks, let me tell you. I got papers.
Yeah, is this gonna be a while?
This is probably going to take us a good 20 minutes.
Okay, let's take a break. If there's anybody else would like to.
We'll see who's left.
Yeah. So we'll be back at 8:45. More than 1 minute. 8:45.
8:45, you're 1 minute ahead.
I said 8:40.
No, you did, it was 8:39.
Oh, that's right, I
Yeah.
messed up on my math in my head.
I thought you said 8:45.
Okay, now
You're
it's
right on time.
8:45, here we go. Nate, we good? We're good, we're back on the air in 5, 4, okay. Sorry, have to be a little.
Romper room or something.
Yeah, let's have, I don't know where that came from, but anyway, here we go. Becky Walker.
I was so excited because we were gonna have so much LCAP input, everybody left.
Nancy will be back.
And there's still, oh, excellent, we're gonna make her do this too. So I think, Anna and Linda, you've already done this, correct?
It's on her table.
Okay, so everybody grab one of these, please. And Ms. Bennett, I'm gonna ask you to grab one of these too. You can use my pen.
No, here she can, or.
Sorry. Do you need something to write on?
No, I have something.
Okay, great.
Here, have like 6 of them. Oh, great, I can fill out a bunch.
Okay, so we're supposed to fill this out and bring it to you at a.
So no. So this is what I'm doing, this is what we did with the administrative team. This is what I did with the staff team, is I'm taking them through the LCAP engagement, and this is how we're collecting our data. So
Did
just,
anybody show up this morning?
no. I was
going
hope-
to, but I had another meeting.
That's okay, I was hopeful. Laura Vieira and Mark Cimolino had, we were able to get some things done. So this year with our LCAP, we have a new template, again. And in working for, in completing our LCAP, one of the things that we need to do, yeah, Beth, would you
I think there's actually.
like one of these? And if you could participate and play along, Beth. So for our LCAP, one of the requirements that we have is that we have to show proof of engagement. We don't get to just say we went somewhere, we did something. So this template was developed with Kim Kern, who is our Assistant Superintendent for Mendocino County Office of Education, and she's the Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services. So we sat down, she gave me a crash course on the new LCAP template. There are several locations where we have to talk about our engagement, but our engagement into our LCAP also has to be data-driven. So you don't just get to say, okay, community, we have some supplemental and concentration funds. Okay, community, how do we want our funds focused? And the community comes together and says, well, you know, we live on the ocean. We live on the coast. We have the ocean right at our doorstep. We really think we need an underwater basket weaving concentration because it is a huge part of our community. And so then it's written in the LCAP that we are going to devote all this funding to underwater basket weaving. And then what happens is the state, MCOE first looks at our LCAP and says, now wait a minute, how are your concentration of your funding, how is that directly related to your dashboard, directly related to your underperforming students, directly related to your unduplicated count? Make sense? So by this process, what we're going, I'm going to show you how we do the engagement with, how we did it with our staff, how, if we do have another one of these, we do it with our community so that it's founded and based in data. Okay? So, first we tell you what is the LCAP, right? The LCAP is a 3-year plan that describes the goals, actions, services, and expenditures to support positive student outcomes that address state and local priorities. I copy and pasted this from the CDE website, so if people want to know, Becky is not that great of a writer. The LCAP provides an opportunity for local educational agencies, those are LEAs, that's us, we are a local educational agency, to share their stories of how, what, and why programs and services are selected to meet their local needs. So this is our local needs, which is why I brought up the underwater basket weaving, because in the past LCAP years, lots of LEAs were bringing up things for their local needs, but weren't necessarily founded in data that was based in their local dashboard, okay? So how are the goals and actions determined for LCAP? Goals and actions must align to the 8 state priorities. We don't choose those. I report on them to you throughout the year. I'll say I have to give this report to you because it's one of our 8 priorities, and I have to document when I go in on our dashboard, I have to document with the meeting minutes to prove that we did present certain things to you and that we did look at data together. Make sense? It has to be, the goals and actions have to be driven from our California dashboard. It has to be addressed, and then community, staff, parent, and student input must be considered. So if the community, staff, parent, and students all come together and say, we want underwater basket weaving, we would have to say, we are considering it because it doesn't hit one of the 8 priorities or because it doesn't hit our dashboard. It's not something that we are going to prioritize as a board. Make sense? Okay. The 8 state priorities. One is priority 1, just so you know. It's just the basic conditions. Are the teachers appropriately credentialed? Do students have access to standards-aligned curriculum? And then are the facilities in good repair? Majority of our facilities are in good repair. So state standards, this is the conditions of learning part of priority 2. It's the implementation of academic and content performance standards. Are we doing it? We don't just get to say we adopted these books. Are we using them with fidelity? Are they part of our program? Priority 3 is parent involvement. Do we have an ELAC? Do we have a DLAC? Do we have site councils? Do we have opportunities for parents to participate? Our literacy night last night was an opportunity for parents to participate. And just a shout out to Lindy Erickson. I was on my way home from we had done a WASC, so my calendar conflicted with that. But do we have parent involvement opportunities? The other state priorities, number 4, pupil engagement. That's looking at our CAS scores, our AP results, our LPAC results, our college and career readiness indicator, direct pupil achievement. Then we have pupil engagement, school attendance rates. What's our chronic absenteeism rate? Middle school dropout rate, our high school dropout rate, our high school graduation rates. Engagement, that pupil suspension rate, pupil expulsion rates, other local measures including like our California Healthy Kids Survey. That's one of the surveys that we use for this particular engagement on school climate, and then parents and teachers on the safety and school connectiveness. So that survey that we do at the beginning of the year with the Chromebooks, that we ask parents to do, and good job parents who continue to do it. They say, well, I did this already. Yeah, you did it last year. But we look at our data every year, right? To see if that helps us figure out if there are things that need to be addressed. And then the last of the priorities is priority 7, which is course access, meaning is our pupil enrollment in a broad course of study that includes all of the subject areas described in Ed Code and the subdivision. So what that means is we offer a broad course of study, but does everyone have access to that broad course of study? So for instance, do we offer an AP class, but only one demographic is in there? Okay, do we have SED kids in our AP classes? Do we have Hispanic kids in our AP classes? Do we have our EL kids in our AP classes? Make sense? So that, do we have course access? And then what are the outcomes? So they're there, so how are they doing? Okay, so those are the 8 priorities that our LCAP needs to be partly based on. And then there's our school dashboard. So with our school dashboard, these are the parts that as a district we have to address. Chronic absenteeism. We have been hitting chronic absenteeism like no tomorrow. And it's improved over the last 3 years. Our suspension rate has been going up and down. We've discussed this. And that's why we applied for the Prop 47 grant, which I think is the LCSSP, Local Control School Success Program. Because our suspension rates are all over the map. They're up, they're down, they're up, they're down. Our graduation rate, 4-year cohort, we've been focusing on that and making sure that we're really addressing our kiddos as they hit that 4-year mark. College and career readiness indicators, we've had some bumps in the road with that on reporting. That's only the high school, by the way, only the 12th grade. Our ELA, our English Language Arts scores in grades 3 through 8 and grade 11. And then our math scores in grades 3 through 8 and 11. Oops, sorry. So all of those are all of the dashboard indicators that we have to base our LCAP on as well. So the 8 priorities, the dashboard, and then we have to look at how we are performing on the dashboard, okay? So we know that we have blue is the highest performance, yellow is right in the middle, and red is the lowest performance. So when we look at these performance levels, we are getting judged against ourselves. So for instance, you might find a really affluent school or a school with largely with a very homogeneous demographic, but they're not improving annually. They might be maintaining, they might have taken a dip in one area, even though their scores are still very high. They've made it into yellow because they didn't improve or they just maintained. So the dashboard is 100% against ourselves. If we improve, then we stay in the yellow or go up to green. If we take a dip or a significant dip, we could go down into the orange or even down into the red. Okay, but it's against us. So you can't look at, let's say, Mendocino's dashboard and compare their dashboard to our dashboard. It's only to each other. I mean, to ourselves, excuse me. So here's where I want to begin. And this is where you get to look at your lovely paper that you have in front of you. So when we look at our dashboard, I mean, this is our synopsis right now for all of our students. When you look at the chronic absenteeism for the district, for all of our students in the district, we're in the yellow range. For our suspension rate, we're in the orange, okay, meaning that we took a decline. For our graduation rate, we're in the green because we have a high number, we've either maintained or improved, but we have a high graduation rate. Our college and career indicators in the orange. We've had some issues with CalPads and making sure we are following our kids correctly. And then for English language arts, we're in the yellow, and for math, we're in the yellow. So just looking at this, okay, one of the questions is, I don't have the paper anymore. In what areas is FBUSD doing well? So just looking at it like this, go ahead and just give us your feedback. Okay, and then the next one is, why do you believe FBUSD is doing well in these areas? And then the next box is, in what areas do you think FBUSD is not doing so well? And just go ahead and give your gut initial reaction. And you don't have to put your names on these if you don't want to, but I do ask that you X the position.
Now, do we, like, those of us that are parents, do we do both?
Do both. Do everything that counts.
How
Do you
about
need a pen?
grandparents?
Beth?
Okay. I'm gonna put grandparents.
You could put other. Go for it.
Okay. So based on what we know
Just bark,
too,
just
that- I
based on
mean,
what
I
you're seeing
feel
right now.
Like I know that we're doing much better there.
And then just give me your little 411 of why. Why do you think that's the case? Okay, but don't go on to the next boxes just yet.
Just do here.
Just do the check boxes and then your initial gut of why. And leave some space because you may want to add some stuff in about 2 minutes. We're going to do 1 more minute.
I didn't leave any space. I didn't leave
You can write on the back if you need more space.
That's good.
So here's what typically happens. When people look at the dashboard, they look at the original front page of the dashboard and they say, okay, they get this vision of FBUSD. We as an administrative team and as a board, we need to do a deeper dive into the data. And so this is what the majority of our public sees and this is how they view it. So now looking at the data, I'm going to show you this next one. This is our subgroup data. Okay, remembering that red is in the lowest range and blue is in the highest range, And truly, blue and green are the highest, right? So we don't have any blue. We've got some green, yes? So when you look at this and you think about our supplemental and concentration dollars, and you think about our subgroups, any subgroup up there that has colors next to it is a subgroup we have to address. What's interesting with this, when you look at this, which subgroup is actually performing pretty darn well?
Our English learners.
Our English learners are doing pretty
great.
darn well.
Yeah.
They come to school, they're maintaining an English language arts, they don't get suspended, right? See, and so then when you look at like our foster homeless youth, they're struggling to get to school, and then when they do come to school, they're getting suspended. And then you look at our Hispanic population, they're maintaining coming to school, and their suspension rate hasn't changed, which is why it's in the yellow. And then we have our white demographic that they get to school, but we've taken a dive in suspension there because we're suspending a lot more kids. So this, and then you look at our socioeconomically disadvantaged kids, okay? They're somewhat getting to school.
And people are understanding that college and career is the reporting error. mostly.
Well, so then let's talk about that. So right now, I'm just looking at chronic absenteeism and suspension. Okay, how often and of our subgroups, who's coming to school, and what does the suspension rate look like? Recognizing that the suspension rate for the state, they want it below 4%. Okay, so think about that. And now we move over to college and career. Now, college and career is a reporting error, but the state really doesn't care that we don't know how to keep data.
What I think is interesting is, as far as the achievement gap, is that the socioeconomically disadvantaged is the same as all. So that makes, I mean, not that it's good.
Well,
that
we're
there's
80%, right?
Right, so at least that gap, right,
Right.
which is a huge population for our kids, there's not.
It says
It's almost,
about
it's almost all
accessibility.
students though.
Well, I know, but
Yeah, but-
it used to not be.
It used to not be that way, you're right. I
Because
mean,
of the reporting, but there used to be a big
Right.
gap between
Mhm.
SED kids and all kids, or.
Right.
SED would stand out by itself. So when you look at the data this way, okay, now I'm going to ask you to look back at your paper. What do we really need to address? Do you have any ideas on how we really need to address that? Because the reality is our supplemental and concentration dollars are supposed to be used for our unduplicated count, our most struggling learners. That's why it's given to us from the state. That was the money that was supposed to come in and level the playing field. Make sense? We right now have to address our suspension rate. Because here's the big pickle. Anybody in red up there, okay? If they are in red again next year,
Not good.
not good for us. You cannot be in red for 2 years in a row.
Now, our students that are in-house, they don't show up in that rate.
Well, we put it, they show up in there if they are not with a certificated teacher. So we typically hire a substitute to be with our in-house suspension kids, or they're with Jamie or Bruce. So, but that's the difficulty. Because now CalPADS is doing a new thing with suspension rate. They want to know all about the in-houses. So we have to really have this conversation of what are the alternatives to suspension. Now, I will be the first person to say that there are times when we need to hit the reset button. There's been some harm or damage, and I don't mean like physical harm. It could be mental, emotional, right? And we have to remove our kiddos to give everybody just a day for the reset. So sometimes suspensions are hugely necessary.
Or drugs and alcohol.
There's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of reasons. But now the state of California said as of January 1, we are not allowed to suspend students in grades TK through 8 for defiance. So we have to get really creative on how we address those key behaviors, how we teach appropriate behaviors, how we appropriately engage kids and work with their social emotional needs so that we don't have that defiance, right? So it's all that underlying work. And so that's what the state is asking us to do. But this is much different when you look at the subgroup than when you just look at the all-student group. And so when we present to parents and we're presenting to staff, the question becomes, okay, here's our LCAP. We have to make a 3-year plan coming up. So now when we say, hey, Becky, we want to do underwater basket weaving because it will bring kids to school, we're going to solve chronic absenteeism that way, kids won't be suspended because they're so thrilled with underwater basket weaving that they want to be there all the time. But whatever the reason is, we have to show in our LCAP how it addresses the red and the orange and what we are doing to address our subgroup data.
And we're already chasing this because our data, I mean, because you say here for the next academic year, well, realistically, we're 3/4 of the way through already.
That's exactly it.
So we could hit red 2 years without even knowing it.
Oh,
So-
right, before
Right.
approving it.
So, and here's the hard part. Guess when we got this data?
Well,
December
Yeah, I was
9th.
gonna say, just a few months ago.
Right, so we got this data in December, and so what the state is doing now is they're saying, okay, we recognize that December's kind of late to say, go and fix it, because most people are out at the end of May now. We're out the first weekend in June.
We've got 5 months.
So, and it's not enough time, and so, what the state is having us do now is when I come to you in June with the LCAP, I have to come in with our priorities that I usually do in August because they're due November 1st. Sorry, my eye's watering up. They are now going to be due, I believe, July 1st, so that the dashboard can come out mid-July, early August, so that before you start your year, you say, hey, look at our data. Let's chase it now a little bit earlier. So I will be coming to you in June with our priority data, and then you will have to approve it. I will have to show in our board minutes that I did what I was supposed to do. Thank you. My eye is just burning, sorry. Thank you. And then we will have our dashboard data. Hopefully the goal is to have it in July so that we can address this at the start of the year and not 17 weeks into the school year. Okay, so now looking back at your handout, there are other questions. It's about priorities. Where do you think the priorities are?
Can't write tonight.
Questions?
Can I give this to you tomorrow?
Yes.
Yeah,
You don't need to do it now, but this is the process that we're taking through
Yeah,
for collecting
that's
data.
great.
And it doesn't mean that you have to come up with an idea right now. You know, if you have ideas, bring them forward. The point that I'm trying to make, though, that those ideas, if you as a board are going to truly consider them, they have to be founded in data. They have to address our dashboard. They have to address our 8 state priorities. The dashboard addresses the priorities. So I'm going to be presenting the California Healthy Kids Survey data to you that we just got back. So the kids did the survey, I want to say, in the fall. And so there was a delay in getting the data back. I believe we just got it. It came to us, I want to say, end of February, mid-February. So I'm now working on getting that together to give you a presentation so you could see what our kiddos said. And we have 5th grade, 7th, 9th, and 11th. So that's really the presentation. It's looking at the data, and then coming up with ideas that support the improvement of that data. So I took the staff through this, I took the administrators through this, you've now been through it. I had this all ready to go this morning, but we didn't get many folks.
And how's it
And-
going with staff administrators, and are they
So
responding
this,
well? Are
the administrators are going to be taking their own staff through this as well,
Okay.
with their own school data. Because their SIPSAs, their school plan for student achievement, their site plan, right, has to be founded in data. And so we're using these forums to be able to say, show the county, because the county is asking us, point blank, show us what you did for engagement. What did you do? Show us on your calendar. So that's why all these things are in my calendar, because if anyone questions it, right, it's in my calendar. But that's why it's also published in the board, in the board meeting on dates to come. So I've also met with the 5th graders from Dana Gray, the 8th graders from the middle school, the seniors from Noyo, and the seniors from the high school. So I've done the student collective. Fascinating, fascinating. Now, I did not take the students through this because I really just wanted to have a conversation with them. And
Well, that might make some kids feel bad, because they identify in those subgroups.
yeah. So I didn't take the kids through this, I have to tell you. It just really fascinating conversations with the students. And the 5th graders, I'll tell you what, they've got some great ideas. So I'm gonna be sitting down with Mr. Kale and sharing some of those with him. I'm gonna put it all in a Google Doc so that you can all have access to it and see all of the comments that were made. I have pages that I need to type up, I just haven't had the time to do it. The 8th grade was pretty enlightening, and I think what I loved about the student conversations was watching the banter back and forth between the kids. You know, one student at the middle school says, you know, we need to be more motivated, and then she kind of looked to herself and says, well, I'm kind of half the problem. Wow. Okay.
Awareness is first.
Pardon?
Awareness is first. That's
So, I mean, but the honesty that happened was really refreshing.
Genuine.
And we had kids from all walks of life, and really great, open, honest conversations. You know, what would it take? What would it take you to get you here? And it wasn't like, you know, get me a puppy or buy me a car or, you know, there was really only one site that mentioned the food. No one else talked about the food.
Really?
Yeah, it was only the alt-ed seniors who wanted improved food.
I was gonna say it was high school, probably.
No, the high school, well, they were fine with the food.
Alt-ed.
It was alt-ed. But it was, I mean, those kinds of things. And really just good comments from the kids. It was really good comments from the kids.
Must have been fun.
It was super fun.
That's
It
great.
was one of those things that was the highlight of my day, and good suggestions. So I'll bring those to you over the next coming meetings. Those will be helping us guide our LCAPs, our LCAP. We're already seeing things that we need to address and plan for if we don't get this grant. I'm going to be honest with you, just from looking at our data, if we don't get this grant, we should still consider having this restorative practices.
Right, that was what
Coach, you know, what we have to talk about is is that a counselor, is that a teacher on special assignment, what is it? So those are some of the discussions we have to have, but that's going to be on the board meeting in April, because we have to post that. And I can't post it in May, it's too late. So, you know, at the next board meeting, we're gonna be taking action on some new positions. And I'm gonna put them on the board meeting for the special board meeting with the benchmarks, just so that we could have the discussion in open session before you take a vote. I don't
It's
know.
supposed to be budget too, right?
Pardon?
Isn't
Yeah.
that supposed to be budget
Yeah.
as
It
well?
is. So, which is why you're gonna see it on there as discussion. But there's some things that we have to seriously talk about. So, in any case, questions?
Great job.
Yeah, I like it.
Thank you. I did this with the county. I said, you tell me what we need to do so that you're happy.
Right.
Well, I think, I mean, you know me, I'm not one for just checking the box. But I think this is instead of just asking people, what do you think? This gives you starter stems,
Yeah.
or whatever they're called.
Starters.
There you go,
yeah.
that thing. So it makes it more, so people just kind of just stare at you.
Well,
and
it's
say-
focused.
Right.
It's more
Right.
focused because they
Well-
can't just dream because they're like, oh, that is an issue.
Yeah.
I don't. What do you suggest for that?
Yeah.
Because I think one of the things that came up when you guys were doing those other roadshow things was technology. You know, everybody was dreaming about all this technology. And I mean, granted, look at where we've come in that short amount of time, but, you know, that, they really didn't, I'm sure, didn't have how we were gonna implement that or how that would, how much that would cost or any of those kinds of things and how
How
it
it would
really
play
would
out.
affect these things. It was just, I want my kids to be exposed to more, be
And then-
ready for more 21st century.
And then years ago, we had a group of people who were angry. We told you we wanted this. Where is it? Oh, well, now we can say, here's what the state is telling us to do. I mean, and we're in this spot because supplemental and concentration dollars were not used appropriately. So when it's not used appropriately and a large contingent of folk don't use it appropriately, guess what the state does? Cracks down on the restrictions,
Tighten it up.
right? Which is why our new LCAP template is like that, and our new SIPSA, our School Plan for Student Achievement, is like that. We have to show that we are making data-driven decisions. It's not because we feel like it. It's not because, you know, we think it's groovy. It's because our data supports that this is what we need to do. So I will try and make some more parent meetings so that we can give folks the opportunity. What's a little tricky with this is that I don't know if folks are staying home because they're worried about the coronavirus. I have to tell you, we had more people in here today, and this was the day that the coronavirus information went viral. But, you know, I'm not worried about that, but I do want to honor people's feelings, so they're welcome to look at this presentation online. We're going to have the slides, and then they can email if they'd like, so they can do it completely from the comfort of their home in their jammies.
So I wonder if the class could cut that you talking, like Greg cut me out, but have, you know, cut you in that snippet, and so they can hear the
Background.
Explanation.
Sorry, yeah, I'm having a hard time
That's okay.
getting words
It's
out,
9
but,
o'clock.
You've been doing numbers all
the,
day.
the dissertation, I don't, anyway, you
Yeah,
know
no,
what I
so
mean?
that we can have those little video vignettes of just this
Right,
section.
so it's not just them reading that and again, their interpretation, but I think that would be awesome if we could have that on the website so people could do it at home, and do it as a Google form and send it in to you, or people will do things.
You could do this as a Survey Monkey too,
Very true.
very easily.
Or a Google form, Anna.
You love it.
Anna likes Google forms.
I think that's great, because obviously, I mean, we have provided several things for people to come to, not great turnout, you were there today, I just think.
So basically,
Let's
to post it sort of like a little mini webinar. We've got the voiceover
And then they get
and
the
explanation. That'd be good.
And I think we are using our money appropriately. People may not always agree. You know, we always put the money where we believe it's in the best spot. So when Wendy and I sit down and look at the budget, and when we talk about moving things out of the general fund into supplemental and concentration, because that's an appropriate place for it. You know, if we have sections of support classes, that's really an appropriate place to put that section of a person into supplemental and concentration. So,
But this is moving us forward to create the new
LCAP.
this is for the
It's
new
not-
LCAP.
I don't think, I've never heard anybody say, nor has anybody been here saying we're not using, you know, accusing us of, you know,
Right.
doing something that's not right. They might not agree with it, but I don't think anybody's ever accused Fort Bragg Unified of.
Well, and I think we're doing
blatant-
good things with our LCAP, you know? I'm thrilled that Kudos is now operating within its budget. I'm thrilled that Nutrition Services is decreasing its footprint on the general fund. I don't know what to do about special education. It's not the kiddos' fault. We have to take care of that population. I don't know how to reduce that general fund footprint, but it's something that we just need to take care of our kiddos, so that's not something we can control. I'm thrilled that we have counselors at all of our schools. You saw the data that Catherine Bernsdorf presented today, that California is at a 1 to 650 ratio for counselors. That's the average right now.
Yeah.
You know, we have a full-time counselor at All Dead. They have 50 kids,
Yeah.
but that's what they need,
Right.
right? Our elementary counselors are working their heinies off. They've got a high ratio. Our middle school counselor has a high ratio. So I think there are things that we can do to look at it. I truly believe we're using our supplemental and concentration dollars in the spirit of what the state has asked us to do. We are addressing a lot of things in the district. If you look at where we were 3-4 years ago to where we are now, we did not think 3 or 4 years ago that we would be in a place that we could say, you know, we're 1-to-1. We're talking about next year how we address the 1-to-1. We have to seriously put on the board agenda to reinstate, unsuspend an IT tech, because we just don't have enough people to do what we need to do. So I think I truly believe that we are in a good spot, that we are putting our dollars, putting our services with the appropriate dollars. The one thing I am holding my breath on right now is just our future budget. I'm gonna be really honest with you. A month ago, I wasn't as nervous as I am right now this week, and I mean that very seriously. And not to sound ridiculous, but Disneyland closing, I mean, not that I wanna go see Mickey, okay? Disneyland does not close, okay? The MLB, the NBA, the Major League Baseball,
Yeah.
the National Basketball Association. I mean, things are stopping. Us not having, Fort Bragg City not having the revenue from the Whale Festival. The Seroptimus canceled the Whale Run. That's their major fundraiser for scholarships. This is going to have an impact on us. And what really made my skin curl is when Wendy talked about stirs and purrs. Because if those funds continue to dip, there will be another reckoning. Well, the reckoning isn't going to come from the employee.
Or the state.
Or the state, it's going to come from the employer, because that's how it's written in legislation. If there's no added benefit for the employee, no cost increases can be passed on to the employee. There's no added benefit, it's just maintaining. And if that means that we have to increase the contribution to just maintain, that's coming out of us. Where we are going right now has a fiscal impact that we don't know. And that's what worries me. The Catholic school worries me. The already dip in enrollment worries me. If our economic turn, because of this current state, continues to turn, we aren't the job mecca of the county. So these are things that we have to look at as we're moving forward. And when we start looking at our LCAP, we need to be very judicious on where we put the funds and how we take care of services. So there are a lot of unknowns, and I'm not trying to play Chicken Little that the sky is falling. These are real things. So as we move forward, we are going to do our best to figure out a way to maybe put this on the website so we can have a Google form. We're going to try and do more parent involvement activities. The hard part is when you put this just to a Google form, it doesn't have the interpretation. And I'm not saying anything like out of the ordinary to sway people in a certain way. The data is the data, but if you don't have that opportunity to hear the explanation, sometimes it's a little skewed. And ask questions. So we're gonna try and do this a couple more times. The timeline for all of this is that in May, you will start seeing the first versions of the LCAP, because we are going to be meeting as an administrative team to start putting the site plans together once the administrators meet with their staff and do this similar activity, but with their site data and their site demographics. So we will be sitting together so that I can capture all the goals and actions that their site councils and their staff have indicated, to make sure that they're appropriate, and then we come together and look at it as an administrative team. How can that action be developed from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade, so it's not just 5 individual islands creating site plans, and then me capturing what they do and then putting it together. So there's a process with this. You will see the first iteration of the site plans and the LCAP in May, and you'll probably see the site plans when they want approval, because the site councils will be seeing iterations of that in April. So May, you'll see the first drafts. June, we'll have our public hearing, so you can review that. Also in June, I will be presenting the California Healthy Kids Survey data to you and our LCAP priorities, because my understanding is those have to be documented in board meeting minutes to show that I've done it and that you approve them. And then that will get submitted to the state. Those priorities will be documented, and then at the end of June, we come together for the approval of the LCAP, and then we'll break for July.
All right.
Okay, so that's kind of the timeline that we're on right now. April is a busy month, only because this is when we have to do all our data collection, and then I need to sit with the county and make sure they approve the actions that we have outlined, so that before I come to you, you know that it's not something that the county's gonna say no to. I don't wanna waste anybody's time.
I'm glad you're doing this with the teachers too. I think you'll get some good ideas.
Questions?
Public?
Yes. Sorry, Beth. Thank you, Beth. It's okay.
So, I have a couple of questions. I've been hearing the 3 goals referred to as the LCAP goals, and they kind of align with the areas on the dashboard, but I'm just wondering if there's going to be a review of what, because you're talking about like suspension rates and chronic absenteeism as being like the number one thing that the district needs to focus on, and I'm wondering, should that be more specific? I mean, we all know what those 3 goals are.
So it falls under culture. So one of the things that our LCAP has to do is embody all of the goals from all of the site plans. So if we made a goal, a very specific goal, like reduce the suspension rate, we could choose to do that.
Right.
But then it limits everything, all of the actions for that goal.
Sure, I get that.
So that's
So you
why
want to make it more of an objective than a goal.
right,
I
so-
understand. You want to be more broad with your goals. I understand. It's just that I don't think the public I mean, I didn't. Until you said fill this out, I was completely backwards on what I thought the district's priorities should be. I was like, oh yeah, you guys are doing really great with suspension and graduation rates, because I know what you've been doing to help alleviate some of those issues. And so I'm like, yeah, there's a lot more ESL training going on right now. There's a lot more focus on graduation. So I thought that was something the school district was doing well, and was surprised to see so much red show up there. So, so it does kind of speak to there needs to be a little education about what is the pressing need based on the dashboard and on the priorities that's mandated by the state, since I think
that's why
most
we're doing
people
this.
know.
That's why we're doing this. This is a twofold process that
Right.
we're able to talk to the community. And the hard part is when we've already approved the goals. I think we did that at the last meeting. We looked at the goals for the last several months after we looked at the original dashboard. So we did that last month. So the 3 big broad bucket goals are there, and then all the actions come under it.
Okay. The other question that I have, okay, so I want to tell you, like, I've been going and doing trainings this year for quality improvement for programs. And part of my training is that I get evaluations. And the evaluations are a Survey Monkey that everybody has the web address to go in, do my evaluation. I have gotten, from all the trainings I've been doing all year, 4 evaluations through the Survey Monkey. I did the survey on paper, handed it out at my trainings, and immediately got 26 back. So I know I said this once before, but bringing this to the parents in the form of a paper just like this and standing there and saying, please fill this out, I really truly believe that is where you're going to get a lot of information. And that's really all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Beth.
And I was thinking, well, and it goes off of what Beth was saying, is that if Fine Arts Night happens, but because you need the diagram, this by itself
Means nothing.
means nothing.
Well, it'll be skewed. a
Right,
little.
it won't have, people are gonna pick underwater basket weaving.
Right.
But and I don't know how you get them to come 20 minutes or 30 minutes early, but if you could do something in the library for parents and get, because,
Before.
high school parents go to that just because they know it's a fun event in the community.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's gonna happen and not get postponed, maybe you could, if that fits.
Yeah. Well, even at the open
Where
houses.
they're, like, we said,
Right.
people that are
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
take
Even at the
advantage of
open
the crowd.
houses.
Well, I
And-
was thinking that, but those are, I think, after the May meeting. So if you want the first read
Right,
to
right, right,
happen
right,
in
right.
May, it'll be after. So anyway, I was just thinking, fine art, I don't know what else is happening in April.
Well, and
AP night,
hopefully
you
that
could
we
get the
don't
AP
cancel.
parents.
Spring musical.
Right, I mean, all these things, yeah, the musical,
Little
AP or
intermission.
college night.
LCAP.
I don't know. Those are a specific group of parents, but.
I didn't even think about the musical.
So just places that there's already parents that you could show them this and have the piece of paper, because I think us standing, because we still need to try to figure that out, our little grabbing people on the curb, but,
Right.
Well, we have a
this
piece of
without
Yeah.
that people are gonna pick
Right,
whatever's
right.
important to them,
But
not what
Another
helps.
reason to put it on the
Mm-hmm.
website.
You could tell them.
I'm sure the class back here could
You
help
can add
record you.
You can add an audio link into Google Form.
Oh.
So you
Oh,
could
there we
cut
go.
pieces from the
I can
Oh.
record my
from
voice.
the slideshow, then the
Mhm.
question with your audio implanted over
I was
the
trying
top,
not to
and
have
just
you
go
have to do
step by step
another
by step.
That's
thing on
okay.
your
Get
calendar, but if
somebody
they
else
took
to do
this,
it.
yes.
We'll figure it out.
But
Wow.
there's ways to do these things.
Oh.
You go, girl.
Wow.
So we have 28 minutes for the last few things. Do you want to keep plowing along and get done here? And I don't mean
Well,
it
I
in a
think,
bad way.
I mean, I'm not gonna speak for everybody, but I think we've kind of beat the vision and mission in the ground at this point. So,
So I put it on the blog. You all get the staff blog. I put it out there. There's no, there's nothing
Nobody's-
being hidden. I will tell you that some weeks the blog has more people than others read it. But it's not for lack of advertisement. I send out an email to the entire district that says the blog has been updated with the link every week.
we get it.
So it's not for lack of effort, but the vision and mission is out there. We have it on this one again, just in case there was some kind of input. I would like us to move this to action, either in April or at the special meeting in March, just to get it going.
It's gone to leadership.
It's gone everywhere.
Okay.
This has been on the agenda for a few months now.
Well, I know it has with us, and we've talked about it everywhere. But
It's
I
been
just
on the
want-
blog, we
I just
took it
wanna
to
make sure
leadership.
it's, okay.
And that's
I'm
why we
good
put it
with
on the blog,
moving.
and I think that was someone's idea here. It was a great idea, just so that it was completely transparent. So I can put it on the blog again next week and say, okay, but.
Forever hold your peace.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody have a problem with us moving it to action?
So when would you like it moved to action?
April.
April? Okay.
I think a regular meeting is good. That's
Okay.
my thought.
Okay. All right,
I agree.
facilities planning.
So, I believe that it is official that the bond did not pass.
It hasn't been certified with the state yet, but
The 15,000
So
ballots were counted?
If you do the math, and Wendy did the math, good girl. If you do the math at the current percentage that it's at right now that's posted on the Mendocino County election results, we would need 150 yeses come in with 0 nos. The likelihood of that happening is not as high. Bonds up and down the state failed miserably. So what I believe that needs to happen is we need to convene a facilities committee that needs to meet regularly, where that committee looks at the needs assessment that was done by SchoolWorks, and then we, as a committee, bring forth some recommendations and priorities. We prioritize what needs to be out there. We take those priorities to the site councils, we take those priorities to any parent club meetings and have the conversation. I think what's difficult is I hear from people loud and clear, no one wants any more taxes. I totally get it. I don't believe that our community understands in what dire straits we are in with Alt Ed and Redwood. And that's my fault. I should have beaten the drum a little bit more. So in moving forward, we either A, need to get community involvement so they understand what the pickles are at Redwood and Alt Ed. Okay? We are not going to be able to fix Redwood with the pennies we have in our, what did you call that budget? Capital improvement? Yeah. In capital improvement. So we're just not gonna be able to do it. If we are going to not go for another bond and just say, okay, you look at me and you say, Becky, make it work, then we are going to have a really ugly, and I mean ugly, budget discussion to talk about how we are going to carve out money to buy one portable a year, every year for the next 8 years to take care of Alt Ed. We cannot put any more money into those portables. We will keep the roofs from leaking, okay? But we can't spend $100,000 a year to keep those up. They are 20 years past their lifespan. So I believe we need to get a committee. 2 board members need to be on that committee. We need to start scheduling meeting. We need to all find people in the community who want to be part of this. There were a slew of people on Facebook who were landblasting the bond. I get it. I'd like all of them to be on the committee. Tell us what to do. Tell me how to do it. And if we can't get the community support to go for another bond, maybe in a year, year and a half, somewhere down the road. I mean, let's exhaust what the needs are. Let's make a very clear priority list. Let's come up with a clear plan on what needs to be done and the order in which we get it done, and then talk about what the options are. Because if, someone moves into the area who's a billionaire who says, I love little kids, let's get Redwood School built, here's $25 million, okay, then how do we do it? And I'm all for that, by the way, if any millionaires want to move into the area and help us out at Redwood. So.
Our 5 people.
Yeah.
One of them's a billionaire, I'm sure.
It could be. But that's what needs to happen at this point, because if the community comes back and says, no way, man, pound sand, we're all taxed out, which could very well happen, then we need to have the ugly conversation of what we do. The other hard part with Redwood is, if I were the queen of all things, I would say to you, we really need to have a very earnest discussion about preschool for all. Can we qualify for preschool for all funds? Can we offer preschool for every 4-year-old, regardless of when you turn 5? Okay? We have to add 3 special ed teachers to our roster next year. 2 of whom right now we're talking about living at Redwood. I don't know where we're going to put them. And I mean that very seriously. I have no idea where we are going to put 2 teachers. Heaven help us if we have 2 TKs. We only have 1 TK right now. If we have 2 TKs next year, so if we don't have the space, we are going to have to spend some money to improve a portable to an extent that we can put kids in it. Okay, so these are the conversations that have to happen.
Okay,
okay, so facilities committee, who wants to be on it?
Yeah, I think we could talk about all these things all night, but we've still got a couple more things in 20 minutes.
You want your committee members now?
I think I would like 2 of you to say who's going to do the facilities committee, and then I want to start planning meetings, our first meeting to be in May, right when the governor's budget falls out, is presented, not meaning fall as in, yes. Oh, Scott on the committee, that was a volunteer, that was not a question, and Mary, okay, great. And then the other commitment I would like is if Scott or Mary can't attend a meeting at some point, who would the alternates be? Jerry and
Yeah.
Diana?
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. Jerry and Diana as alternates, Scott and Mary as the committee members. Okay, and then what I'm going to ask both Scott and Mary is I would like your help in soliciting folks to be on, to attend. So I'm gonna put the call out in an Aries all call to get folks to just, to come and help us figure out what these priorities are. So, and I think we just need to come together and personally invite people.
For all you people who didn't support this bond, and you know who you are, come to this meeting tomorrow.
Well, and just to educate folks, because the sad part is no one utilized any of us. We don't know what you don't know, and no one asked me anything. You know,
Only my husband.
right. Yeah, do I really need to vote for this? Because I'm totally taxed out. Very, very few people. And after the election results come out, well, what are you doing with the lottery? How come you're not, using the lottery money? Well, they obviously don't know, I have things I need to repair. Well, you can get a line of credit for your house. I mean, we can't get a line of credit. We can't get a special loan to, defer. We have.
They don't know.
What's
the
interesting,
restrictions.
a parent asked me, well, Becky, why don't you just take out a loan and just make payments? I said, okay.
We'd love to do that.
I said, so let's pretend we could. Let's take out a $35 million loan, okay? Because that's really what it's going to cost
Right.
to fix Redwood and Alt Ed. And there's a whole bunch of people in town who want a new gym for the high school. So let's forget the gym, because $35 million is not going to get us a new gym and fix Redwood and Alt Ed. But let's say we could take out a $35 million loan, okay? Payments on a $35 million loan over 30 years is about $90,000 a year, and that's with 1% interest. Okay, no one's giving us a loan for $35 million for 40 years at 1%. We do not have $90,000 a month in perpetuity for those kind of payments.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's going to do.
Well, and the
For
other,
public
the
institutions.
other statistics that I found interesting is in our district, the voter turnout was really poor. Like, we have about 52,000 people that can vote. It's about normal, about 12,000 people came out to vote. And I think there was a level of respect because most people didn't even vote yes or no for the measure. I think it was 2,200 people voted in, that's combined, yes and no. But everyone in our district that that went out to vote for 12,000 voted no on Prop 13. So that's telling me that we still need to really educate our families. And so, of course, waiting to maybe do it again, to make sure that we have tours or really get the word out, because
Those are not the same people, because.
No.
Because that's the entire county.
Right. But
For
still,
for the Prop 13, so.
Right, but
It's
it's-
not that many people voted for that and just didn't bother to vote for, you'd have to look at some other thing on the ballot that only involves our district. You can't compare the numbers
right.
otherwise.
Well, I was just thinking if 12,000 people voted yes or no for Prop 13, but then looking at our measure, there was only 2,400
No, because
people.
most of those 12,000 people couldn't vote for that because they're not in our district.
Right, but that's still, to me, there was 52,000 people that could have, well, maybe not necessarily, but there's still, in our area, we have way more than 2,400 people that could have
Oh, yeah,
voted.
Yeah, but I'm
just
saying that it's
yeah,
not.
right,
it's
I
the
missed, yeah,
total voter turnout
sure.
that's wrong.
Right.
Those are not the same groups.
You could look at the
No, but I'm
D&E
just
or-
thinking,
yeah.
not saying they're same people, but just that's clear that the state or our county, where they were normally were a blue voting, and they're a little bit more sympathetic. So it's interesting. It was a very interesting election.
It's all about educating people.
Yep.
If you win $1 million in the state lottery, and you pay $400,000 of it in taxes, where does that tax money go? Back in the general fund. It doesn't go back in the lottery fund. Yeah, how many people know that one?
Mm-hmm.
Disgusting.
So for us, if we can get the committee going and really map out our priorities, then we can start chipping away at how we're going to address it. So Scott and Mary, we'll start with you. Jerry and Diana, thank you for being alternates. We are going to start doing a Google poll with Anna, or Doodle poll, sorry, to come up with some dates. And for right now, I'm going to choose May because I'm hoping that we'll be through this COVID-19 thing a little bit better so that we don't have to worry about meeting times.
So you're talking about us meeting?
I want to
So-
have the first committee meeting happening in May.
May, okay.
And I will, if you, it's not that I don't want to be on the committee, so if you need me, if everybody else is out, I'm fine with.
Claire.
Yeah.
The third alternate will be.
Yeah. I feel like I'm like, don't want to have anything to do with it, but,
Okay, look, kids.
okay. Advanced planning. I just want to give you guys, a heads up that, on the 4th, I may not be able to be there. Mary's been trying to, what's come up now is that the meeting that I had in Ukiah, Jacob also needs to be at another meeting in Ukiah, and I'm not gonna make my husband drive over to Ukiah and me drive so that I can get, anyway,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for, again, a 2-hour meeting. So, I didn't wanna make a big deal about it, so I'm just gonna tell you that I may not be there.
Well,
And what I told Kathy is I
Mary
think
keeps trying to
that
tell me to
we
change
should
it, but I
change the
don't.
date, 'cause I
It's
think
hard
she-
enough.
Right, well, I thought that, because I thought I'd had a conflict at the end of the month, like the 25th of April, but then I later on went in and changed it, so I thought that we had some, where we all were in sync that day, I thought. April 25th.
And if it's, I mean, was there a reason, with it being that short of a meeting? I mean, usually our workshops are longer than 2
Right.
hours.
Yeah,
So I don't know, if we're doing 2 hours, I don't know, is there a reason why we weren't doing a weekday?
Oh, right, instead of a weekend.
Yeah,
Why are
I
we
mean, to
doing a
me, why are we
weekend?
chopping up a weekday when 2
Or
hours? I
A
just-
weekend.
That's my own personal. But again, I don't want to take a bunch of time, and
No, I think we should. I think it's important, as you know. Is the 25th
Well,
is
I now have
not-
something scheduled on the 25th in
Oh,
the
you
morning,
do.
though.
So here's what I'd like to do.
It's Friday.
Anna and I will talk about some of the dates tomorrow. We are gonna look at rescheduling April 3rd, because, we need to have some tricky little budget conversations, and I think it's hugely
April
important.
4th.
I mean, April 4th.
Yeah.
I think it's hugely important that you're all there. There are things on the housekeeping reminders and announcement that we need to adjust right now. The Symphony of the Redwoods is not coming on Friday. We have people from out of town who are classified in the elderly category, and to come into an elementary school amid curtain situations, I can't blame them. On March 20th, the career fair, because we were talking about bringing in all those kiddos, that has been canceled. So the spring musical, I'm gonna have to talk about if we cap that admission to maybe a small amount, and everybody, the Cotton's big enough that if we said, okay, we're not gonna have more than
10
150
people a row.
people, you
Or-
know, and then
yeah.
everybody practices social distance, because it's an 800 seated.
And it's usually, I mean, we'd love to have it full, but it's usually not full.
It's usually not full, and we could have people exercise social distance. Am I saying that correctly?
Mhm.
So, if you want to sit with your own family, you suck up the same air all the time anyway, but maybe, you know, we do every other row, or I'll talk to Jenny about that. I would hate to cancel the musical,
It's a lot of work.
considering everything that
It's a lot
they
of
do.
work.
But I think we could potentially limit how we do seating in there. I'm a little concerned about Dana Gray Fine Arts Night. That's only a couple weeks away. We pack everyone. We pack them all in the
That's
Dana
a
Gray.
pretty tight germ.
But potentially what I would like to say with that is maybe we can postpone it and look at that to happen, maybe in conjunction with open house, you know?
And
I
May
don't
would
know.
be better, but yeah,
But
that's busy
something.
time.
And then everything else on here, I'm not too worried about. The
Spring carnival.
spring, okay, so spring carnival we are talking about right now, and, you know, you can just give me your 2 cents. We
mostly
are,
outside.
so it's not
Kind
all
of, not
outside.
all.
The
Yeah.
hard
It's
part
in
about spring
groups.
carnival is that we are bringing our kiddos and all the family members with them. So now, the question becomes, do you just say we're gonna bring Redwood over to mingle with the high school, and we tell families, stay home? Those are fighting words. I mean, spring carnival is all about community. That truly is all about community. So my thought is right now, that we may want to just, because it's only a couple weeks away, I know Redwood and the high school would love to have spring carnival. We just have to be very judicious on what events we say that we're going to hold and not hold. My concern, again, with spring carnival is that we're bringing a whole lot of people together. under one school roof, right?
Which- And they, they've decided what they're doing, and they'll be ordering things, so we should.
We need to make a
that
decision on that
soon.
quickly.
Yeah.
And I'm leaning towards putting that on hold for this year, to be quite honest with you, just speak
Those
up now.
well, I'm just.
I know the second, well, think about the seniors. Think about if you're a
Yeah,
senior
I just-
and CIF is gonna cancel spring sports. So Mitchell's, my son's coming home. His school's shut down. And and friends of ours who go to other schools back east, they're shut down for the remainder of the semester. They're not even gonna have a graduation ceremony. I mean, those things to me are like, now, wait a minute.
Heartbreaking.
I'm just gonna say out loud, that our graduation ceremonies are outside. Well, I'm not even gonna go there. It's
Well, maybe if you could, I mean, I know that's a perfect day, 'cause it's before the break, and it's a good day to, but.
It's
maybe
just they're gonna be
postpone.
ordering everything.
Well, I know, that's what I'm
They could,
saying.
but they
Order-
could,
yeah,
but
I
they could
just don't-
use it for next year.
I don't know.
or this year.
I know, so what's gonna happen is,
I'm still in PTSD from no homecoming.
hey,
know.
I was with you on that one.
There's people still still bitter about it.
So we have ADCO on next Wednesday, and by then CIF will have made their decision. I should have a letter from the county soups. We should have more information by next Wednesday. So I'm holding off Spring Carnival, that decision, until next Wednesday. I'm hoping some of this just calms a little bit.
I mean, it's done this, so,
The closures are moving north already. Marin's down there.
yeah. It did too, I mean, it will pass. It just, we all have to just stay home if you're sick and
Wash your hands.
wash your hands.
So I'm just telling you that this is what's on the pike.
I understand,
I know, I get it, and the career fair shutting down is a big deal. If you want to know about the amount of work that goes in the career fair, it's 100 times than what happens with Spring Carnival. It's 100 people that come into.
I can tell you that's
Yes.
true, because I did both.
You did both.
That's a
So
lot.
just so you know, the career fair has been canceled for right now. I don't know if we're going to be able to postpone it or not. It gets too tight and ugly the rest of the year. We-
He said that they wanted to do it every other year, and they would just pick a date for next year and just be done with the decision-making on that one. It's initial.
Okay.
Especially because all those presenters, you can't keep saying.
Yeah,
"Oh, we
just
postponed it
wait,
once,
just
Right,
now
wait.
so
we're gonna
it's already
hang
been
on."
postponed
That's right.
once.
Yeah.
And the
And
other
we'll
one
know.
that I'm worried about, I'm worried about Dana Gray Fine Arts Night, because it's
That's a
incredibly
lot of
close.
germs in
That's
one
a-
space.
Well, the lights are off.
And it's
people are
hot.
all
It gets,
crammed
and
in,
it gets
it's
hot in
hot.
there.
There is no social distance in
No.
the Dana Gray
That is
multipurpose room for
standing
that.
room only.
So, that one I'm a little worried about, and, Spring Carnival, I'm worried about. And the rest of these, like club meetings, that's not a big deal to me. There's so few people who go to those. So, the awards ceremony, I'm not worried about. That happens during the school day. They're the same kids that hang out with each other during the school day, so I'm not worried about that.
People just stay home if they don't.
Right.
Exactly,
What about
exactly.
junior prom?
April 18th is not on here.
It's
after the next
The
meeting.
prom
Is the
Well,
25th or something?
18th.
Or the 18th.
of April,
Mm-hmm, the 18th.
so we're gonna,
We'll know by next
Yeah.
month. Well, you need to know before then.
we're gonna have to have a conversation at ADCO that's, again, by next Wednesday, my hope is that, we see a little bit of this calm down, and just little cues of how people handle it. I was watching Oregon and Washington so closely because, they sent out communiques that were really, hey, the majority of the adults who we need in the field helping sick people have kids in school, so we need to have our schools open so that we can keep those parents in the field
Right.
helping other people. Well, Seattle just shut down.
Yeah.
So we just have to, we all know this is going to pass,
Mm-hmm.
right? This will pass. Every day is one day closer for it being over. So we just have to make it through.
So what's happening on the 4th? We're still debating that workshop?
You're gonna send out a new doodle poll, right?
April 4th, we're going to find a new date.
Okay.
And watch them cancel. But I just got a letter. We're all supposed to be in Ukiah, but
Where, oh,
I'm gonna feel bad.
Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to hold off onto the April 4th date for a week.
don't feel
Okay.
bad.
We'll hold on to
We've-
it for a
we've got
week. That's actually a really good point. We'll hold on. We're just going to wait.
Yeah.
We're going to
We
wait.
don't have to decide this minute, but
Right.
you have to be there.
Okay, other questions about any of these dates?
Okay, no, we're good.
Board
Can I-
meetings in April, 2 or 1?
There's one in April, and we talked about a budget workshop. So
Okay.
there's only one meeting because of spring break.
We have a meeting next week,
We have a
yes,
meeting next week?
next Thursday.
Mhm.
Next Thursday, and that's for the benchmarks. And,
6, or is there a
And some
closed
more
session,
budget.
or?
and more budget.
Will it be closed, open or closed?
6?
At this time, there is no closed session.
So next week, 6
I
o'clock.
thought you did, I thought you told us during this closed session that we were
We need to do,
number 2.2.
we need to do a closed session.
Do we need an hour or 30 minutes?
5:30?
I don't know yet.
No?
So
Can-
just say
can I-
5.
We'll
I
go
don't
with
know
5
yet.
unless you tell us otherwise later.
Let's do 5 for right now, and that agenda needs to be published 24 hours in advance because it's a special. And if we can knock it out in a half hour, that's what we'll do.
Jerry, you're on.
Motion to adjourn.
I second.